I guarantee you no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Very good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock on Sunday, the 9th of January. This is Breakfast with Stephen Dixon.
And me, Anne Diamond.
Come on your TV, your phone, and of course now on your radio.
That's right. You can now find us on DAB+, so you have no excuse not to take us with you. Here's what we have for you this morning.
A group of MPs have written to Attorney General Suella Braverman calling for the Colston statue case to be referred to the Court of Appeal. This week, a jury cleared 4 protesters in Bristol of criminal damage after the monument was toppled. We'll talk to one of the signatories this morning.
Housing Secretary Michael Gove is set to announce new measures aimed at forcing developers to pay for cladding removal from buildings. It's part of plans to ease the unfair burden that some leaseholders faced after the Grenfell fire. Our reporter Bradley Harris is in Manchester for us this morning about that one.
And is there light at the end of the tunnel? The Sunday Times reports that free lateral flow tests could be facing the axe as Boris Johnson considers just how we learn to live with COVID.
And don't forget, what you have to say is key to this new show, whether you're listening on the radio or watching us on TV. Get in touch about the stories we're discussing today. So you can email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet at gbnews. So it's a bit early in the morning. I wonder how you're feeling.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Mind you, I tell you what, I slept better last night.
Oh, me too. Like a log. All the way home, I was thinking the one thing I really want is a bacon sandwich, and I'm a vegetarian. A bacon sandwich and a nice stiff drink. So when I got in, my son said to me, "What can I cook for you? Do you want breakfast?" I said, "No, I want like a bacon sandwich."
And did you have a bacon sandwich?
And yes, I did.
As a vegetarian, I'm shocked.
And that's the one thing, a lot of vegetarians say this if they've ever been meat eaters. It's the one thing that's hardest to give up. When you smell bacon, that can do it for you. And I had the urge to eat a bacon sandwich yesterday.
Did you have a stiff drink?
Yeah, I did as well. Well, why
That's
not?
the way to do it. So Anne was looking at the sunrise yesterday, a little bit bleary-eyed. We asked yesterday for some sunrise pictures because it's nice to see where you are in the country, where you are in the world, actually. And so just to recap on some of the stuff we saw yesterday, because we didn't get round to them all, and we want you to keep doing it, keep sending the pictures in.
Yeah, because here we are stuck in the studio, and it's lovely to be able to actually reach out and say, where are you at the moment, and what's your day starting like? It's probably a bit dark and windy and blowy at the moment, but when the sun comes up, we'd love to see your photographs.
Yeah, so Sutton-on-Sea, here you go. Kirsty Scott sent this in. I mean, it's a stunning
It's
shot.
a lovely, lovely picture. Scott Rowell took his picture on a beach near Blackpool, he says. But, I mean, look at the colours. And if you're listening on the radio at the moment, it's just a stunning photograph, and it's got the most weird blues and purples and oranges and yellows, and that's a beach near Blackpool.
It could be a poster, that one.
Yeah.
Couldn't it? Could be a poster. But of course, we're not just in the UK. You can watch us in plenty of places around the world, including Andalusia in Spain. Bob Jackson took this one.
It's a beautiful one.
And it's lovely. It does look very Spanish.
Well, it's because of the buildings in the foreground, which are silhouetted against the sunrise, rather, and they've definitely got that sort of look about them. Back to the Isle of Wight, though, for our next photograph, which is, again, another stunner, quintessentially British sort of view, isn't it? Absolutely lovely. Yeah. Thank you for that.
And I think this is our favourite one. And if you're on the radio, you need to rewind us on YouTube or something to see this one. It's the Ipswich Quay that Delia sent us, and it is just pink and peach and Oh, it's gorgeous, the way it's reflected in the water.
Yeah, you could look at it on the app as well, couldn't you? Yeah. Gavin has sent us this picture of Portobello Beach in Edinburgh, and that's another beautiful view I didn't know was near Edinburgh.
No.
So that's what I mean. Your lovely photographs can take us all around the country and maybe all around the world. Talking about the app, my sisters both got in touch and said, we want to watch you. I've had to retune my television or something. I said, why have you had to do that? She said, well, I usually watch things on an app. And I said, but we have an app, the GBNews app, and then you can watch everything as you go. And it also means you could listen to it as well while you're jogging, if you go out jogging.
This is true. In fact, that app's everywhere. I've got the app downloaded on my TV. Ooh. So you can just click on the app on the TV and or talk to that little lady who lives in the speaker. You know the one?
Oh, her, yeah.
And
can she fix that for you?
And you just say, watch GB News, and up it pops.
I've got one of them and undid it because it just... It spooked me sometimes because you're doing nothing or you're just sort of cooking in the kitchen or something and suddenly it sort of offers you something you never asked for.
Oh, I like all of that.
It spooked me, so I undid her.
I'm a bit of a geek.
Yeah, you are, aren't you?
So there you go. Now, let's have a look at our main news today. And a group of MPs have written to the Attorney-General calling for the Colston statue case to be referred to the Court of Appeal.
Yes, MPs question Wednesday's court decision, which cleared 4 people of tearing down a statue of slave trader Edward Colston during a Black Lives Matter protest in Bristol nearly 2 years ago, if you remember.
Now, the verdict has ignited some culture wars, with some questioning if it was based on political feeling rather than facts. We should stress, though, that the juries are given all facts in the case in order to give an informed verdict.
Yeah, which is why, of course, yesterday one of the 4 cleared of charges argued that jury trials and freedom of speech are the cornerstones of our society, which is, of course, true. But a lot of people find the verdict strange.
But one thing you can't do is criticise a jury. They're entitled to come up with whatever verdict they want to, regardless of the evidence.
But judges are allowed to direct the jury on matters of law and taking other things into consideration.
There is some question over whether the judge in the case, judges, of course, you can criticise, whether he allowed defences which shouldn't have been allowed.
Interesting one, isn't it? And that will rumble on, and it's big in the Sunday papers today.
Yeah, let's take you through those front pages for you. And end mass jabs and treat COVID like we do the flu, is what the Observer is saying today. The comments by the former chairman of the UK's vaccine task force called for a major rethink of the UK's COVID strategy and a return to a new normal.
Some people will find that a bit alarming. The Times, though, says free lateral flow tests could face the axe under a strategy, that same sort of strategy, if you like, of living with COVID. Under proposals drawn up by the government, the new system could mean free tests would only be provided to high-risk bodies, such as care homes, hospitals and schools.
The Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, has warned she will trigger Article 16 of the Brexit agreement if the EU won't bend. That's the main story in the Sunday Telegraph this morning. The new Brexit negotiator has insisted Britain will overhaul the rules surrounding Northern Ireland unilaterally if they can't reach a negotiated solution. It's a tricky one to get your head around, that one.
It is, and it will go on and on as well. Sunday Express exclusive has Priti Patel warning the House of Lords not to block her crime bill. She says it's time for tougher justice.
Let's have a look at the Independent for you. It says the oil industry were invited by the government to help write the new rules on drilling. This only weeks, of course, after the Prime Minister entertained world leaders at the COP26 summit in Glasgow.
And the Mail, be a true Tory, Boris, or you're finished. Those are the words of the ex-Brexit Minister, Lord Frost, in the Mail. He says the Prime Minister must reset his government along more traditional Conservative lines.
Sunday People says Savannah Brockhill, who was jailed for the murder of toddler Star Hobson, joked in jail that she's buried 3 more babies.
That is indeed sick, as they say. And Danny Dyer has quit EastEnders, leaving the BBC show in apparent crisis, reports the Sunday Mirror.
Oh, it's awful when people keep leaving somewhere, isn't it, like that?
Well, people are jumping a sinking ship. It's not a sinking ship, EastEnders, is it?
Do you know what? I find it so depressing to watch, though. All these sort of soaps, they're all grim. I need cheering up a little bit.
Yeah, you're right.
The Sun on Sunday says the England footballer Jack Grealish spent the night with a Towie star at a hideaway villa.
As you do.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. And the Daily Star brings us the most important story of the day. I can't believe this. Yuri Geller's still going. Well, Yuri Geller, the illusionist, remember the man who bent spoons?
Is he an illusionist?
Well, I don't know. He's going to cause a historical earthquake, apparently, by finding the sacred Ark of the Covenant. He plans, he thinks he knows where it is, and he's going to dig it up soon, and then the world's going to come to an end. Something like that, anyway.
Isn't it weird? I've talked to Yuri Geller a couple of times, and I sort of...
Has he bent a spoon in front of you?
No, but I want to believe it.
It's fascinating.
Have you seen him one
Oh,
bend?
yeah, quite a few times. Because, I mean, he was enormous in the 80s.
was, yeah.
He used to come on breakfast television all the time then. And he would do it in front of you. And you'd say, do it again. And the cameraman was sort of bending around to see if you looked at it from a different angle, you could see how he did it. It was incredible. If it's an illusion, it's the most remarkable illusion.
But then if you've got this extraordinary gift, why do you want to use it bending spoons?
Well, it's made him a whole career. He's lived on bending spoons for years.
I want to believe it. I do. I don't know. Let us know what you think. Now, the Housing Secretary, Michael Gove, promises to expose and pursue companies responsible for safety problems caused by cladding.
Yeah, flat owners have been told they will no longer have to pay for dangerous cladding to be removed from low-level buildings. Our North West of England reporter Bradley Harris is in Manchester on this very subject. Hi there, Bradley.
Hi
Hello,
there,
Brad.
Good morning. Yeah,
Hello.
This is going to be great news, isn't it, for those who live in flats of lower height buildings. That's if the government announce this next week. Because the key thing to mention here is that actually the government haven't announced this yet. We're expecting these plans to be announced next week at some point. Of course, previously the government had actually announced £5 billion for leaseholders of taller buildings, those higher than 18.5 metres. But actually, under these new plans set to be announced, this will mean that those who own flats that are between 11 to 18.5 metres in height will no longer have to take out low-interest paid loans to cover the cost of dangerous cladding. So yes, that will be welcomed by many people who own those properties. Of course, where is this money going to come from to pay for all of this? Well, the government, again, if these plans should be announced, say that this will come from developers, £4 billion towards the cost of covering this dangerous cladding for these lower height buildings. And this, as we know, let's remind ourselves, has all come in the wake of the Grenfell fire that happened 4 years ago and killed 72 people in 2017. From that, we've seen time and time again flammable cladding and other fire safety defects that have riddled buildings up and down the country, and still, even now, 4 years on from Grenfell, people are still experiencing problems with their cladding, which has had a knock-on effect with people's insurance claims. We've had people forking out huge bills for marshals to walk around buildings in case of a fire breakout. So hundreds of people are still living in properties with flammable cladding. So in this new package of measures to be announced next week, as you say, Michael Gove is expected to announce this in the Commons, and that if developers choose not to pay for cladding removals voluntarily, then the government will then supposedly threaten them with legal compulsion. So it'll be interesting to see if the government announce this, these new package of measures. If they do, as I say, welcome news to many who have been protesting this for quite some time.
It's good news, isn't it, for people who do live it? I just think how... I drove past Grenfell Tower this morning, and whenever you see it, it's still got the big green heart lit up at the top of it, and whenever you see it, you think how absolutely terrible was that particular tragedy, but how awful it must be for anyone living in a flat such as the ones you're talking about, Bradley, there, not unable to do anything about it still. I mean, it's taken this long, and we need action. They need action, don't they?
Yeah, there definitely needs to be action. I'll be chatting to some residents later on in the programme who will be giving us their take on what the last 4 years have been like. And certainly I think it will be an eye-opener for those who don't live in a property with flammable cladding. It was actually only in October during the Conservative Party conference that took place just behind me here in St Peter's Square, did the Manchester Gladiators, an organisation that is fighting against the leaseholders having to pay to remove their cladding. They were standing just outside Manchester Library there, trying to send a message to the government to say, look, we shouldn't have to pay for this. This wasn't our fault, and we want action. We want to see something from the government. And fingers crossed, they're about to see some answers from the government next week. But certainly the last 4 years have been a very challenging time for hundreds of thousands of people across the country living in these types of buildings.
OK, Bradley, for now, thank you. And do you know what? It is that awful thing, as Bradley mentioned there, the people who've had to pay for fire marshals, which has cost a fortune, to look after a property that they own that they cannot sell.
Yeah. And this has been going on for 4 years, and that's such a long time. It was such a terrible disaster. You would think action would be much quicker than that.
You would think so. Well, look, at least there is some hope on the horizon if that's you this morning. If you are in that position, we'd love to hear from you, and maybe we can bring your take to the screen on that today. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Get in touch, and we'll give you a buzz back. Let's bring you up to date with the rest of the news. And a group of MPs is calling on the Attorney-General to refer the Colston statue case to the Court of Appeal. A jury cleared 4 protesters of criminal damage after the monument was pulled down and thrown into the harbour in Bristol in 2020. In a letter to Suella Braverman, the Tory Common Sense Group says the verdict was patently absurd and needs urgent review.
Boris Johnson is being warned not to scale back free lateral flow tests following reports that they could be limited only to high-risk settings. Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon and the Labour Party says that it would be utterly wrong-headed to do so. Meanwhile, the UK has reached a total COVID-related death toll of more now than 150,000 since the pandemic began.
Now, the biggest ever space telescope mirror has moved into place and could soon explore the depths of the universe. Engineers from NASA and the European Space Agency celebrated as it straightened out into its full shape. It's now a sort of 6.5 metre wide mirror, which is huge, gold mirror for that. It's the last part of the James Webb Space Telescope mirror that was launched by rocket on Christmas Day. It's going to take them months to get it cooled down enough to use.
Yeah, well, there's a picture that shouldn't cool you down, actually. Who is that? That is Princess Catherine. Doesn't she look fabulous? She's all over the front pages of the newspapers this morning. Those are the official photographs that have been released, marking her 40th birthday today. That's pre-Raphaelite almost, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It's just gorgeous. The pictures were taken by the photographer Paolo Roversi, so obviously they're not taken by her. And they show her in various different Alexander McQueen dresses, if you're interested in fashion. She's also wearing a pair of earrings that once belonged to her mother-in-law, Diana, Princess of Wales, of course.
It's interesting with the earrings thing, because she's got, in 2 of the pictures, it's Diana's earrings, and the third picture it's the Queen's.
Queen's earrings, yeah. Well, she's got a lot of earrings to choose from then, hasn't she?
Very nice, isn't it?
But she does look wonderful. She's always been photogenic, because she's so slim and gorgeous, and the hair is always a feature. But those pictures are just beautiful.
They are.
They will hang as a permanent part of in the National Gallery, apparently.
But she's having a private 40th, isn't she?
Yeah, a quiet 40th.
A quiet 40th. But what does that mean for someone like Princess Catherine? What does a quiet 40th mean?
Well, I wonder whether 40 means very much to her. I mean, I know when I turned 40, I didn't like it at all, because in those days, long time ago, 40 was a mega milestone.
What did you do, though, for it?
I was working that day.
Oh.
Yeah, we were doing Good Morning with Anne and Nick, actually.
Oh.
And so all the staff gave me a present, because I'd hoped to have kept it quiet, but of course it was in the papers. And I don't know, I just didn't like the idea of being 40. It just felt really old to me.
The one age that I didn't like, weirdly, was 26.
Why? I think 26 is a brilliant year.
And I was working that day with Angela Rippon.
On what?
Isn't it funny? A now defunct finance channel.
Oh, blimey.
We've had weird lives, us two.
Absolutely.
But I think it was because I was no longer a young man. I was just a man.
You see, now my sons were saying this to me. They don't like the idea of 30 because you can't even pretend to be young if you're more than 30. I mean, honestly, really?
Yeah.
So I just wonder what Kate thinks of being 40 and whether it is a depressing thing, a milestone to have hit, or whether she doesn't care, probably.
Yeah. Well, look, if you've had your 40th or any significant birthday and you've got pictures, preferably embarrassing ones, let's be honest, get in touch, gbviews@gbnews.uk. I've got an embarrassing sort of picture from my 40th, which we will share with you a little bit later.
Yeah, I can't even tell which one is him in it.
Oh.
No, well, we'll show that to you
Very
later.
clever.
Did I tell you about the soup that I got on my 60th?
Soup?
Yeah, my best friend threw a dinner party for me on my 60th. I mean, I really didn't like turning 60 either, but and I said, I don't want any fuss, I don't want any, T-shirts with 60 or badges or silly hats, nothing like that, please. I really don't like the idea. And so it was a lovely private dinner party in which she served the soup, and it was like a sort of clear vegetable soup, and she'd put cream on everyone in the 6 and an O.
Oh.
Yeah, very naughty.
Well, that's quite nice,
It was very subtle, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. Now, let's... I'm slightly flummoxed by the fact that we're talking about you being 60, and I wouldn't have...
No, exactly. You can't believe it, can you?
I can't believe it.
Good.
No,
Thank you very much for that.
But anyway...
So anyway, please get in touch with us. GBnews at GB... No, I've done it wrong.
GBviews at
gbnews.uk and tell us what it was like for you being 40, or if you're anticipating being 40, or, like you say, any other big birthday milestone. Does it really matter anymore? I think numbers are a tyranny.
I think it's quite... You should be proud of getting older, personally.
Yeah, you
That's
think
'cause I'm
that now.
getting grey. Yeah. Now, could it get any worse for Tony Blair? Yesterday we reported there were more than 1 million signatures on a petition calling for his knighthood to be revoked.
Well, today, newspaper reports claim that he secretly promised George Bush that he would spin the Iraq war to the world.
In a leaked Downing Street memo, Mr Blair's foreign policy chief, Sir David Manning, documented the pledge made between the pair following a summit in 2002. That's a year before the conflict began.
I find it very strange that anything was written down like that. I mean, did they really use the word spin and write it down somewhere in a memo that can years later be recovered?
You know it's going to come out, don't you?
Yeah.
It's got to come out at some point. So there you go. We'll be digging into that for you. Coming up, though, we've got the sport with Aidan, and we'll be hearing from a meteorologist about snow and flooding expected in England. More ahead.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Well, let's have a look at the weather for you. And the UK is looking dry across southeast England, but elsewhere a mix of sunshine and showers. So let's have the details for you. And thicker cloud and rain will move into West Cornwall by midday. Elsewhere, remaining bright with sunshine and showers. Not as windy as yesterday, with highs around 9. A dry, bright and fresh morning across southeast England. Light winds, but with plenty of winter sunshine. Chilly with highs of 7. The cloudiest skies across Wales this morning will be in the west, with some showers here. Elsewhere, brighter with sunny spells. Bit of a chilly start, but then a bright morning across much of the Midlands, with plenty of sunny spells, but perhaps just the odd shower. It's a chilly day again, highs of 6 Celsius. Now, moving on to northwest England, it's going to be cloudy and damp. Northeast England will be drier and brighter with sunny spells, perhaps a few light showers. Temperatures around 5 Celsius by lunchtime. A cold, frosty but sunny morning across northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, often cloudy with showers. Those showers falling as snow over the higher ground. Edinburgh largely cloudy with highs of 5. Fairly cloudy skies expected across Northern Ireland as well, with a scattering of showers. Some of those showers could be heavy at times. Top temperatures 7 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. For the rest of Sunday, rain will edge into the far west. Elsewhere, a scattering of showers are possible. And that's how your weather's shaping up for the rest of the day.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Morning to you, it's 6:25. This is Breakfast on GB News. We're live on your TV, of course, but also on your radio this morning.
Yes, it's going to be a nasty day weather-wise, I think, especially if you're driving. Watch out, because the Met Office is warning that snow and flooding could hit parts of Britain this weekend. A total of 21 flood alerts are in place across England and Wales. Western Scotland as well, Northern Ireland, North West England and North Wales all face very frosty conditions.
Well, let's talk to John Hammond, meteorologist at Weather Trending. Really good to see you this morning, John. I mean, look, how concerning is this? Because when we talk about, the floods we've seen over the past few years have been absolutely devastating for a lot of areas. Is this looking as bad?
Well, I hate to dampen the enthusiasm, but in actual fact, there are a reduced number of flood alerts as I speak. I think they're down to 18 now. And actually, the threat of flooding is diminishing over the next few days. Yeah, there's going to be some drips and drabs of rain over the next couple of days. It's a messy Monday, Tuesday. But actually, beyond that, the signs are for a fairly prolonged spell of dry weather through much of next week, which has to be good news. And I'd expect those numbers of flood alerts to actually get less and less. I mean, we're in the middle of winter. To have that many flood alerts across the UK is not that unusual. It's when they become flood warnings and then severe flood warnings that we get really concerned. Flood alerts are fairly run-of-the-mill. As I say in my weather charts, I see absolutely nothing to indicate that those levels are going to go up. So that's good news. In terms of snowfall, it is snowing across the Highlands of Scotland. It's quite chilly air at the moment. We're going to see some wintry showers across more northern and western areas, especially up over the high ground. But again, nothing untoward, nothing out of the ordinary. And for most of us, actually, it's going to be a bright, crisp, sunny sort of day, a sort of day to be out walking in the countryside. That's exactly what I intend to do later on today. So really, both in terms of rainfall and snowfall, I'm not seeing anything too alarming on the weather charts. And really, the message over the next few days is that we're going to see a lot of fine and settled weather. That in itself could well bring some issues as we go further into the week, because the air is going to stagnate. It's going to become very still. And I'm expecting freezing fog probably to be the main issue, the main weather hazard as we go through the coming week. And some of that fog could persist all day long. And where that does happen, temperatures could well stay below freezing all day long. So that is one to watch, especially across southern parts of the UK, freezing fog later on this week. But otherwise, in terms of rainfall and snowfall, nothing too alarming, nothing too untoward for the middle of winter. In what's been, up to now, a pretty benign winter, let's face it. Yeah, there's been a bit of snow around, but not all that much.
Well, it is January, isn't it? You know, what can you expect? Yeah. It is just horrible if you're having to drive very far in that sort of situation. But that's good, actually. It's good news. The headlines are a bit sort of sensational, but then, as I said, it is January.
Yeah, it is. Lovely stuff. John, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
I mean, mind you, freezing fog's bad enough, isn't
Well,
it?
we love complaining about the weather, don't
Well, we do, but it is miserable. It's all right for him going out for a walk. I hope he gets wrapped up. I'm sure he'll have a nice time.
Well, weather's all right, as long as you've got the right togs for
Right
it.
gear, yeah. Now, it is the weekend. Well, you don't need telling. That usually means there's plenty of sport taking place. So where do we start? Let's talk to Aidan McGee. Good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Better than Newcastle.
Yeah, I mean, look, it wasn't a vintage day yesterday for FA Cup shocks. Normally at this time of year, a lot of top clubs have other priorities on, and sometimes their priorities in the FA Cup is sort of lessen a little bit. But the biggest shock we saw yesterday, and it really was a big one, Newcastle United 0, Cambridge United 1. Now, Cambridge is not famous for football. It's famous for lots of other different things. It's a fantastic city. It's not famous for football. They haven't had a really sustained period of success for over 30 years. They go to Newcastle, who've recently established themselves with the Saudi takeover as the richest football club in the world. And lo and behold, they go and put them out.
There's a picture on the front page of one of the papers, I think it's the Telegraph this morning, of the new owner and his wife, I think, looking very, very miserable.
Yeah, that picture was on Match Today last night. Yeah,
really?
Exactly. I mean, yeah, so they're pathetic. This is the headline on the back of the Sun on Sunday. Alan Shearer slams Kieran and co.
What went wrong? Was it anything that you could particularly put your finger on?
Yeah, a lot of things, really. I think that Cambridge having a good season. So they're not a big club even in League One. They're punching above their weight where they are now. But sometimes you get these clubs and they have nothing to lose and they go there, they stick together, they've got men behind the ball. And they could sense the anxiety around Newcastle in the first 20 minutes, half an hour of the game. If you silence those supporters, you've got half a chance, even in the Premier League. If you go as a League One club and you get yourself, as I say, organised, and they only really had one chance. The goalkeeper was good. A lot of things have to go your way, and that's what the FA Cup's all about. It absolutely happened.
It's not all about the money then, is it?
It's not all about the money, no. But, I mean, a day like yesterday, I mean, you would expect most of these Premier League clubs put out sides that sometimes have players worth multi-million pounds on the bench. Now, that would be, I reckon the whole Cambridge squad probably cost less than £300,000 to assemble. I'm guessing at that. I will check it. I'll try and check that for you.
That's a bit different, though.
It's a little bit different, yeah. So, massive result for Cambridge. Let's look at some of the headlines. I mean, it says they came, they saw, they conquered. So came as in like Cambridge, I suppose. I used to work in newspapers. I think I came up with a better headline than that now and again. Pathetic, as I said, and Toon on bad trip. So they signed a player yesterday. It was meant to be a bit of a boost there going into the game, and they completely flunked it. Oh. But elsewhere, I mean, look, I mean, there was...
I tell you what, we do like a bit of a Goliath killer, though, don't we?
Oh, yeah, without doubt. Why not? That's what it's about. I mean, we didn't see a lot elsewhere either. Crystal Palace went to Millwall and won 2-1. We saw Burnley lose at home to Huddersfield. That's a mini upset because there's only one division between the two. But other than that, I mean, there's 9 games today. Let's not forget. I mean, Tottenham are in action, West Ham, Arsenal, and Manchester United are in action tomorrow night as well. So it's staggered over the three days. If we talk tomorrow or the day after, I'm sure, hopefully, we'll have a few other shocks to reflect upon.
What else is going on with Novak Djokovic? Because, I mean, there's that sort of slightly odd picture came out yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah, because we learned that he'd had COVID.
That's right, yeah.
And then pictures have come out that show that if he did have COVID, he wasn't exactly behaving like somebody who's had COVID.
You're quite right. There's pictures of him there and winning the Australian Open last year, actually. But it looks like he's not going to be there this time, unless depending on what happens tomorrow. But look, we don't know for certain whether he knew he was positive at the point when those pictures were taken. He seems a bit laissez-faire in his attitude towards the condition. He wasn't expecting to get it. He protected himself from it. But as we know, with the latest variant, anyone can be affected and it's easy to contract. Now, the situation at the moment is that the court papers came out yesterday in advance of tomorrow's hearing. And he's going to say, his defence is going to be that he had an exemption from the 16th. Now, there seems to be a jurisdictional problem here because the federal government are saying that that isn't sufficient to grant you an exemption to play in the Australian Open, but the state of Victoria, where the event takes place, they cleared him a few days ago. In fact, Scott Morrison's on record saying the Prime Minister saying he didn't really have a problem with it. And that leads me to think that he's been played here a little bit.
So it's like the difference between federal law and state law.
Well, it's almost like, it's almost like, a London borough against the Mayor's office or the Mayor's office against central government.
And we saw there a picture of the female tennis player who's also in the same predicament.
That's right. Well, there's a few. There's about 12 of them in total having their visas reviewed. But he's the eye-catching name, and that makes something. The higher profile you are, the more vulnerable you are to petty politics. And I think maybe with the outcry they've had, and bear in mind that Scott Morrison, the Australian PM, said that this was OK a few days ago rather. I think he was saying that Djokovic has drawn attention to himself by saying, "Oh, I've got an exemption, so how good is that?" But to be honest, he's the world #1 in tennis. He's one of the most famous people in the world. If he doesn't turn up to the Australian Open, then people are, regardless of what he says on Twitter, people are going to be asking questions, aren't they?
Well, Tennis Australia want him there, don't they?
Well, exactly. I mean, look, don't forget, he's not the sort of country you can blag your way into. There's a lot at stake here. He can win his 10th Australian Open. That is what puts him almost in the realms of Rafa Nadal in his record in Paris. He also could go to number 21 in terms of his number of Grand Slam wins.
Which makes him the absolute leader.
Well, you would have to. I mean, look, and you can. There are all different metrics to use, but the most common one, necessary but not sufficient in all the analysis, would be number of Grand Slams. That puts him ahead of Federer and ahead of Nadal. It would be an extraordinary achievement and very, very difficult to argue, therefore, that he's not the greatest player of all time. So there's a lot at stake here. He needs to get in there. I don't believe he would have travelled to Australia unless he thought he was getting in.
OK. Aidan, thank you. It's a controversial film.
Yeah, let us know what you think, actually, because it is very controversial. When you hear one lot of news one day and one lot the next, and the lawyers have got to argue it tomorrow, I guess. Still to come, an expert warns letting teenagers smoke cannabis causes symptoms similar to schizophrenia. So stay with us for more on that.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Good morning, it's 6:36. Actually, if I just wait, it's 6:37. You're watching Breakfast on GB News. We're live on your TV and also on your radio this morning.
Well, let's bring you up to date with all the top stories. And a group of MPs is calling on the Attorney General to refer the Colston statue case to the Court of Appeal. A jury cleared 4 protesters of criminal damage after the monument was pulled down and thrown into the harbour in Bristol in 2020. In a letter to Suella Braverman, the Tory Common Sense Group says the verdict was patently absurd and needs urgent review.
And ministers are being urged to go further to help flat owners remove dangerous cladding. The government has announced plans to make developers cover the £4 billion cost of cladding changes to buildings that are over 11 metres tall. Labour, however, say the measures do not extend to other non-cladding related costs for leaseholders.
And it's a happy birthday to the Duchess of Cambridge, who's marked 3 new portraits to mark turning 40 today. Fashion photographer Paolo Roversi, I've never heard of, took the birthday
You have now.
pictures. So Kate in a series of Alexander McQueen dresses. She's wearing also in 2 of the pictures earrings that belong to Diana, and in the last picture earrings that belong to the Queen.
And she looks stunning.
Well, they are beautiful pictures. There's absolutely no doubt.
Is there such a beautiful picture of you turning 40?
Yes.
Can we
There
see
is.
it?
Yeah, let's have a look. Let's have a look. On my 40th, but there I am. Gorgeous.
Hang on a minute.
Gorgeous.
You're going to have to explain this. That's the weirdest picture I've ever seen.
I did tell you that for my 40th birthday, I'm a very family-orientated sort of man. So we had my mother put on a nice, lovely spread of food. We had family round, and then we played bingo wearing Doctor Who masks.
Yes.
So there you go. So that's from the left, that's my sister-in-law, and then her father, and then I don't know who.
No, you don't know, you see.
That might be my dad as
Yeah.
Christopher Eccleston. My brother is Colin Baker.
Yeah.
I'm Tom Baker. I think it's
that's you, Tom Baker.
Tom
on the
Baker's
right.
me.
Yeah.
My mum is William Hartnell.
That's who it is.
And I
That was
think
something from Star Trek.
I think on the bottom left, it's my brother's mother-in-law.
That is a very weird photograph. And okay,
It's great, isn't
Is
it?
Tom Baker your favourite Doctor Who?
I love Tom Baker.
There you go.
I've got a signed picture from Tom Baker,
Aw.
which is very special to me. It was just a classic.
Have you got lots of Doctor Who memorabilia?
I've got lots of TARDISes and sonic screwdrivers. But I mean, you love Doctor Who as
I
well.
do love Doctor Who, yeah. Yeah, I love a lot of science fiction. I love Star Trek as well.
Oh, yes, Star
Love
Trek.
Star Trek.
Star Wars.
We're going to go to a convention together one day.
We are.
And we
What are you
decided,
going to get
didn't we?
dressed up as?
I'm going to go. I was trying to think what I could go as that wouldn't look ridiculous. Well, it would look ridiculous
Of course it's
anyway.
gonna look
And
ridiculous.
it's one of those Vulcan lady.
Like priestesses.
Yes, that's it. Because they wear the most fantastic high hats and then long flowing robes.
Yeah.
And I could do my ears then as well.
Yeah.
Couldn't I?
It would suit you.
Vulcan goddess. That's what I want to be.
You see, that's what we're going to do. Convention.
We will go to a convention together one day. Because they have those wonderful big conventions in Birmingham, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
Particularly in Birmingham, they go
Fantastic.
big.
I'd love to do that. Geek out. It's the
Yeah.
way to go.
Yeah, why not? It's time to go through the papers, though, now. And joining us this morning is Ella Whelan, columnist and podcaster at Spiked Online, and Nabila Ramdani, journalist and broadcaster. It's lovely to have you both.
Good morning.
Lovely to be here.
Let's kick off, should we, with the... it's on the Times and the Observer, this sort of lateral flow test. The free test may be coming to an end.
Yes, indeed, it's the free lateral test that faced the axe under plans for living under COVID-19, which Boris Johnson will announce within weeks. But I have to say straight away that the government has not confirmed any details of this story. It's very much underplaying the story, and nothing has been decided yet. But yes, it could be that people will now have to pay for a lateral flow test. But having said that, the story also makes it clear that a lateral flow test will be provided for free to people with symptoms and also in high-risk settings such as hospitals, schools and indeed care homes. So the most vulnerable
It suggests
people.
they're sort of scaling things back. But if you have to pay for your own lateral flow test, will you do it at all?
Well, I mean, this is the question, should people need to? Because I think one of the things that, and the Sunday Times quotes some comments from Nadeem Zahawi talking about the fact that we need to move from this setting of it being a pandemic and an emergency to the virus being endemic, to us talking about it being really focused on the people who need the tests most importantly, so care workers or people working on the front line. And your average Joe who's going out to the local pub, do they really need to test? I think that's the question that the papers are asking. And indeed, in the Observer quotes Dr. Clive Dix, who was the ex-chief of the vaccine strategy, who is really quite forthright and is saying that rather than this just being one small step, we need to completely rethink the way in which we are dealing with this pandemic. As Nabila says, there's no official comments from government. There's certainly no ministers coming out and saying we're changing plan. But the mood across the papers this morning seems to be that...
It suggests they're talking about it,
to
doesn't it?
suggest that there could be a change of tone. I think lots of people might...
Well, is that all to do with the fact that we're changing our attitude slightly, or they want us to change our attitude, or is it a cost thing? Because this free test for everyone's cost about £6 billion, hasn't it?
Well, absolutely. I think the whole issue of coronavirus funding is obviously a hot potato politically. And yes, the government spent some £6 billion on testing, but private companies very close to the Tory party have also made huge profits during the pandemic. But I think, you know, more optimistically, perhaps this is a story about another sign that the pandemic is easing up effectively.
Yeah, I wonder if it will I suppose at some point we're going to have to suck it and see, aren't we? Try this sort of thing out and see if things get worse or whether they get better.
Yeah, and I mean, The Observer is a really interesting piece that goes on to talk about the fact that, we often talk about the sort of initial things like whether testing works, whether or not people need the vaccine, but then we don't look at the costs of all the restrictions. And they go into the detail of the fact that, for example, lots of care homes have taken in 40% less of people in the last year, which is, it means that care homes aren't working. It means that there's something fundamentally wrong. And we know that there's a direct link between problems in care homes and the restrictions that have been put in place. I think most people now are starting to, as the fact that Omicron has proven itself to be less harmful to health, certainly more prevalent in its ability to spread, but less the consequences for people's health are less serious than the Delta, for example. I think most people are now looking at the issue in hospitals, the issues in care homes, the issues in schools, and saying, is it really worth us continuing on this route of treating everything like an emergency when we can see people suffering on the other side of it?
What I haven't heard from any virologist or anyone saying, they all say that it is likely there will be another variant. What's the likelihood of that variant? Yes, but what's the likelihood of that variant being less than Omicron? In other words, things are getting better. Or could it be worse again?
Well, nearly all scientists are now saying they accept that coronavirus will never go away. That's a fact. And instead, immunity from infections, thanks to vaccination, will eventually make it no less severe than a flu, say. But we have to bear in mind that a year ago, about 1 in 10 cases resulted in hospital admissions, but now it is fewer than 1 in 50 cases. So there is definitely a change in how severe this terrible disease is affecting us.
Well, that's the vaccination programme for you, a lot of people would say. Look, let's move on to the Sunday Express, should we? The Home Secretary wanting to be tough on crime, if not tough on the causes of crime. Ella?
Yes, so this is Priti Patel issuing a stern warning to the Lords to tell those peers not to meddle in her police crime and sentencing bill. I mean, it's a kind of a tricky issue because obviously I don't think the Lords should have any say in government, but in the laws that we make, because they're an undemocratic, unelected chamber. But it has to be said, what Priti Patel is outlining in this bill and what she seems to be whipping MPs to vote for is really quite worrying from anyone who's got a kind of freedom-loving bone in their bodies. For example, cracking down on the right to protest if protest raises an unreasonable level of noise. You tell me what's a reasonable level of noise and protest. But also here in the Express, focusing in on knife crime. So Priti Patel is talking about new measures, including serious violence reduction orders, which would be a new measure brought in to allow people who have been either convicted or cautioned for previous crimes to be stopped and searched. And she says this would help with night crime, help with stabbing. And she's been really quite forthright here in the Express.
Why are you concerned about that?
Well, because if the whole tone of the police crime and sentence bill is a kind of lock the keys, lock up and throw away the keys. And indeed, if you look at what some of the Express talks about, the fact that last year there was a record number of teenagers who were killed in Britain streets in relation to knife crime, we already have stop and search measures. We already have quite a strong level of regulation around getting people in jail. And so that doesn't seem to be working. I think that no one seems to be asking the question, why was last year such a big year for knife crime? Could it be that all the resources of society, whether it's youth clubs, whether it's schools, whether it's all the things that teenagers can spend their time doing other than getting into trouble, were closed down? I don't think that it's even on the most basic level of how to deal with people who commit crime, locking them up and throwing away the key, and a kind of attack, I think, on rehabilitation doesn't seem to be the way to go. There does seem to be
an increase in gang culture, though, don't they? A lot of these stabbings have ended up with somebody crossing from one gang land into another. And I don't know, there seems to be an increase in gang culture. Why is that?
Well, I mean, I think that there's no magic answer, but I think it comes down to a range of issues, a breakdown in community. People, you can't just say, oh, this kid who's carrying around a knife, it's not really his fault because he couldn't get into the local youth club. That would be ridiculous. But there is a problem that we have, particularly with young guys, particularly in urban city centres, where they seem to have nothing better to do than get involved in gangs. Now, whether that's because they haven't got stable adult, involvement in their lives, whether that's parents or other members of the community, schools or something, but simply having this approach of either stop and search or also greater police involvement in young people's lives isn't working, because we've had that for a number of years.
Yeah. OK, look, we're almost out of time. So, Nabila, can we just talk how you squeeze Article 16 into a minute? I don't know, but this is in the Sunday Telegraph.
Yes, indeed. Well, this is the Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss. She's talking tough, effectively, over the ongoing Brexit process, as you would expect her to. And she says she will suggest constructive proposals to EU officials this week during their first face-to-face talks. But she says she's also willing to trigger Article 16 of the Northern Ireland Protocol, which would suspend parts of the treaty designed to prevent a hard border with the Republic if a deal cannot be struck. And of course, Britain has officially left the EU, that's a given, but there are still numerous problems to sort out, and not least of all,
it's quite a strong negotiating tactic, though, isn't it? Because if the EU wanted to respond in any sort of significant way, they would in effect have to put their own border across Ireland.
Well, yes, indeed. I mean, I think what this story shows is that the Brexit is effectively an ongoing process.
Yes, and that very, very tricky problem still hasn't been sorted after all this time.
And much as many people in Britain want the EU to have nothing to do with British affairs, it actually remains a hugely influential power.
Yeah. OK, lovely. Nabila, Ella, thank
you again
both.
later.
We shall catch up with you later. Now, a top psychologist has warned that highly potent cannabis is not being taken seriously enough by some liberal-minded parents. They'd rather see their teens smoke pot than drink alcohol.
I know, that's what our sons say to me. It's much safer than alcohol. Professor Sir Robin Murray from King's College London said the use of high-strength skunk is causing around a third of the psychosis cases he sees in his London practice.
Well, it comes as London is to relax drug laws by no longer prosecuting young people caught in possession of cannabis. Instead, educational courses will be offered about the dangers that drugs pose.
Well, to discuss more of this, we're now joined by Peter Reynolds, who's an expert in the science, medicine, law and politics of cannabis. A very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hello. Hi. I mean, I was saying it often comes up in family debates, even in my own house. My son said to me, you know, your generation drink more alcohol than ours. Cannabis is safe. What do you say to them?
Oh, well, I mean, what you said at the beginning is absolutely correct. You know, I mean, you can demonstrate that alcohol is a much more dangerous substance than cannabis. The problem really we have at the moment is that for the children, I mean, which is where the most vulnerability is, it's actually easier for them to get hold of cannabis than it is for them to get hold of alcohol. And that's because the government has taken responsibility for alcohol and regulated it and made sure it's only sold through licensed outlets where age limits are enforced. And if we want to protect our children, that's what we need to do with cannabis. You know, cannabis is not going away. Cannabis consumption is going up, not just in this country, but all over the world. And different policies are much more successful at minimising the harm of cannabis than the policy we have in the UK. The policy we have in the UK is backwards, and it's going further backwards. It's alarming the way that the present Conservative government is doubling down on sort of authoritarian prohibition, which has been proven not to work. If you look at what's happening in the States at the moment, Nora Volkow, who is the director of NIDA, National Institute of Drug Abuse, has said she has never seen such a dramatic fall in the number of children or underage people using cannabis. And that's because many of the states have legalised and regulated. It's being brought under control.
Forgive me for interrupting, but is that a valid point? I mean, there's so much concern about psychosis caused by a lot of this skunk cannabis that's about the really strong stuff. I mean, if it was regulated in this country, how do we know it would take the skunk off the market?
Well, I don't think it would take the skunk off the market. And if you try to take anything off the market, what you do is you drive it underground. But I mean, you know, this is a very complex issue. And the research which you're referring to from Robin Murray and Marta DeForti is far from settled. I mean, it's very controversial. If you go to the Lancet, where their research has been published, you will find that there are, for every study they publish, there are 7 or 8 other studies which debunks their methods. But I mean, that's not to say that, you know, we shouldn't be doing all we can to protect children. And the problem is that our present drugs policy abandons control of the drugs market to gangsters. You were talking about gang crime just now. And really, we're allowing the gangsters to run this market. And the more, if we say this substance is dangerous, and it can be dangerous for a few young people, if we say it's dangerous, then the last thing we want is gangsters running the market. And yes, that's what we're allowing to happen. When we can see in other jurisdictions that bringing the market under control, legalising and regulating is much more effective. That's why Canada has legalised. That's exactly why Justin Trudeau said they wanted to legalise in Canada. It's been a great success, and it's been a great success in the States. And of course, Germany has reached the same conclusion and is about to legalise probably in the coming 12 months.
Do you think our government will ever have the, I was going to use the word courage, but will ever have the decision-making powers to actually do something similar to they have done in certain states in America and Canada?
Oh, well, I think courage is the right word, and I think they will be forced into it kicking and screaming, because the more you crack down on something like this, the more difficult you try and make it for the market to operate, the more the price will go up, the more the gangsters will be interested in it, the more street dealers they'll push out there, and the worse the whole situation will get. Prohibition doesn't work. It fundamentally doesn't work, because what you're doing is you're fighting against the communities you're supposed to be protecting. You know, if our present drugs policy supports the gangsters' business model. You know, it's an extraordinary thing to say, but really Boris Johnson, Priti Patel, Kit Malthouse, the people in government who are responsible for this, they're on the same side as the gangsters. The gangsters want cannabis to remain illegal because that enables them to sell it to whoever they want to, whenever they want to, without any concern about quality.
Well, forgive me, Peter. Forgive me, but if the prohibition model doesn't work and you say we need to legalise cannabis as a result, where does that leave things like cocaine and ecstasy and whatever else, methamphetamine?
Well, I mean, ecstasy. I mean, it's been well established. You'll remember that Professor David Nutt, was sacked for telling the truth about the relative harms of ecstasy. And ecstasy is much safer than alcohol as well. When you come to things like cocaine and heroin, I agree, it becomes much more difficult. But, you know, we have a regulated market in heroin now because some people get heroin on prescription. And really, again, the sensible way to deal with these things is by bringing in regulations. In every other market, every other activity in life, you know, be it travel, be it motoring, where the government steps in and it does everything it can to minimise risk and reduce harm. But the extraordinary thing is in drugs, what government policy does is it maximises harm. It pushes young people into the hands of gangsters. We need to be controlling the market, not letting gangsters control it.
OK, Peter, really good to talk to you this morning. Yeah. Thank you.
And that's obviously one for your views as well. We'd love to hear from you. GBviews at gbnews.uk. Why can't I say it?
You've nailed it.
Thank
You've
you.
nailed it. Still to come, our reporter is live in Manchester to reveal why some homeowners won't pay to remove dangerous cladding from lower-rise buildings. First, though, here's your weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Well, the UK is looking dry across southeast England, but elsewhere a mix of sunshine and showers. So let's have a look at the details for you. And thicker cloud and rain moving into West Cornwall by midday. Elsewhere it's bright with sunshine and showers. Not as windy as yesterday, highs around 9 Celsius. Dry, bright and fresh in the southeast of England. Light winds, but with plenty of winter sunshine. It is chilly, highs of just 7. The cloudiest skies across Wales this morning are in the west, with some showers here. Elsewhere, it's going to be brighter with sunny spells. A chilly start, but a bright morning for much of the Midlands for you today, with plenty of sunny spells, but perhaps the odd shower. Chilly day with highs of 6 Celsius. Moving on to northwest England, it's going to be cloudy and damp. Northeast England will be drier and brighter with sunny spells, but a few light showers. Temperatures only 5 Celsius by lunchtime. A cold, frosty but sunny morning in northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, often cloudy with showers, those showers falling as snow over the higher ground. Edinburgh, largely cloudy with highs of 5. Fairly cloudy skies are expected across Northern Ireland as well, with a scattering of showers. Some of those showers could be heavy. Top temperatures 7 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. For the rest of Sunday, rain is edging into the far west, and elsewhere a scattering of showers are possible. That's how your weather is shaping up.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Morning to you, it's 7 o'clock on Sunday, the 9th of January. This is Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon.
And me, Anne Diamond.
We're on your TV, your phone, and of course now on your radio.
Yeah, you can find us on DAB+, so you've got absolutely no excuse not to take us with you wherever you go. Here's what we have for you this morning.
A group of MPs have written to Attorney General Suella Braverman calling for the Colston statue case to be referred to the Court of Appeal. This week, a jury cleared 4 protesters in Bristol of criminal damage after the monument was toppled. We'll speak to one of the signatories this morning.
Housing Secretary Michael Gove is set to announce new measures aimed at forcing developers to pay for cladding removal from buildings. It's part of plans to ease the unfair burden some leaseholders faced after the Grenfell fire. Our reporter Bradley Harris is in Manchester for us this morning. We'll join him in a few moments.
Is there some light at the end of the tunnel? It depends how you view it all. The Sunday Times says that free lateral flow tests could be facing the axe as Boris Johnson considers how we learn to live with COVID.
Yeah, we'd love your views on that, actually. Do you think it is time we learn to live with COVID or still fight it with all sorts of things like vaccines and testing kits? Anyway, do join us with your views, as I was saying, GB Views at gbnews.uk or tweet at GB News.
So a group of MPs have written to the Attorney General calling for the Colston statue case to be referred to the Court of Appeal.
Yes, MPs are questioning Wednesday's court decision to clear 4 people of tearing down that statue of slave trader Edward Colston during a Black Lives Matter protest in Bristol nearly 2 years ago now.
Well, the verdict has ignited, I suppose, what you could call culture wars, with some questioning if it was based on political feeling rather than facts.
Well, yesterday, one of the 4 cleared of charges argued that jury trials and freedom of speech are the cornerstones of our society.
Which in itself is a fair point.
It is. But still, people are amazed that, I mean, there clearly was vandalism.
There was video of it happening.
Yeah.
Which is
but the
extraordinary.
jury found them not guilty of causing vandalism. So it's a real well, it's one we'd love to hear your views on, actually.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, they might be calling for it to go to the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal can't overturn
a jury decision like that.
No, not of a not guilty verdict. As my understanding is, listening to a lawyer they had on Alistair Stewart's show yesterday.
But they will be arguing whether the law was argued in the right way, I suppose.
Yeah, well, they can look at precedents, as legal precedents, which can be set by all of this. So it's all to do with that, really.
One thing's for sure, the controversy ain't over yet.
No, it isn't.
And, of course, I mean, that's what fascinates me is up and down the country, there must be other similar sorts of statues to people that nowadays we are probably very uncomfortable about their history, but they are still people that, presumably some years ago, they thought it was appropriate to erect a statue of.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, one of the arguments is, well, why don't you go through the proper legal channels to try and get a statue removed? Because the argument is in Bristol, they tried to do that and nothing happened.
Well, they've certainly got it being debated now, which may be a good thing for everybody.
Yeah, maybe so. But as Anne said, let us know what you think. Love to know your views on that one. Now, the former chairman of the UK's vaccine task force is calling for the government to end mass vaccination once the booster programme ends.
Dr Clive Dix says COVID should be treated as an endemic virus, similar to flu, and urges the government to rethink its strategy and to back research into immunity beyond antibodies.
Now, it's reported that the Prime Minister is expected to announce in a few weeks whether the government plans to end free lateral flow tests, only providing them for high-risk settings like care homes and hospitals, and for people with symptoms. More than £6 billion of public money has been spent on mass testing so far.
Do you find it frightening, the idea of loosening up now and living with COVID?
No, I don't really. If I'm perfectly honest, and I'm in a high-risk group as a type 1 diabetic, so I was sort of boosted and everything else all very early on. But now I just sort of think we've got to get on with it, don't we?
Well, is the fact that we're just so exhausted by it a good enough reason to ease up on it? That's what frightens me.
But the fact that so many people are, and I know some of you won't be a fan of vaccination because there are always different views out there, but because a lot of people have been vaccinated and the infection rates are huge at the moment, but the hospitalisation and death rates are comparatively low.
Yeah, but it's the high infection rates that's causing the staff shortages within the NHS and everything like that, because people are having to isolate. And now there's an argument to reduce the isolation from 7 days to 5, as long as you're testing negative. And now you're being asked to pay for your own lateral flow tests to do just that. You can sense this breaking down in the fight against COVID.
But if you've got flu, you go back to work when you feel well.
Yes.
You
don't test yourself, do you?
You don't test yourself if you're unwell, and then you go back when you feel well.
Yeah.
So is that the way we've just got to move forward? I mean, I don't know. I'm no expert in all of this.
No, I think very few experts around, and you look at the experts and they always seem to argue, don't they?
Yeah, yeah, nobody really agrees on all of this. So do let us know what you think. Now, the Housing Secretary, Michael Gove, promises to expose and pursue companies responsible for safety problems caused by cladding.
Under government plans, flat owners will no longer have to pay for dangerous cladding to be removed from low-level buildings. Our North West of England reporter Bradley Harris is in Manchester. Hello there, Bradley.
Hello there, good morning. Yeah, this is going to be great news for many people who are living in low-height buildings with dangerous cladding. If the government announce these new plans next week, it means that those who live in buildings that are between 11 to 18.5 metres will no longer have to take out loans to pay to remove dangerous cladding from their properties. Previously, the government committed £5 billion to buildings that were taller than that. So where is this money going to come from for these other buildings then? Well, it's said that the government are going to ask developers to cover the cost, £4 billion in total. Now, the developers, some of which have actually come out and said, look, we actually put up these buildings at a time when regulations were in place. We followed those regulations to the letter of the law, and actually we shouldn't have to fork out this bill. The government are saying that potentially in the Commons next week they might say, well look, if they're not going to voluntarily pay for these costs, then there could be some legal compulsion. For those who are living in these buildings, in these lower height buildings, many residents, some of which we'll hear from later on in the programme, have been living with this for around 4 years because, of course, let's remember, this all started with Grenfell and that fire that happened in 2017, killing 72 people. Since then, 4 years on, many buildings, hundreds of tower blocks, flats have been found with dangerous cladding inside them. And actually, cladding is only part of the problem. There's many other problems as well, including, at the moment, many leaseholders having to pay insurance costs, unable to sell their property because of these cladding problems, and also having to pay for fire marshals to walk around in case of a fire outbreak. So for some leaseholders, it's been an absolute nightmare at the moment because they're essentially stuck in this flat, surrounded by dangerous cladding, unable to sell it, and then, of course, waiting to find out what the action is going to be and what answers are going to come from the government. It's been a long 4 years, but hopefully next week they'll have some answers. Of course, if this plan does come into place and actually the developers do commit to this £4 billion in cost, we don't actually know how long that money will take to actually repair the damage that's been done, and actually how leaseholders will be able to pay for their bills in that time. But certainly at the moment, the housing market as well is very up and down, particularly with these types of flats. As I say, leaseholders can't sell them. That's bringing doubt for people who are looking to buy their first home, not looking at these flats with cladding. So there's a lot going on. Fingers crossed, in the next few days, we'll have a bit of clarity from the government, but more importantly, clarity for those who live in these types of buildings.
Yeah, Bradley, I was wondering, when you speak to some of these residents a bit later, it would be interesting to know if they even know. But removal of cladding is one thing, but what is left then? Do these buildings have to be resurfaced in some way? And who's going to pay for that? Because that is obviously going to affect the market value of the flats these people are living in.
Exactly, and some of these residents actually will be saying just that. It's not just the cladding that is going to be costly here. There are so many other costs to consider. And also, let's not forget, this isn't something that has just started now. This has been 4 years running where residents have had to pay higher bills, higher insurance costs, these fire marshals every day. So these are costs that have been running for 4 years. Some residents have been telling me, actually, who's going to reimburse us for these costs for these 4 years? OK, great, if the government come out and actually announce these plans that the developers are going to come forward and voluntarily pay towards the replacement of the dangerous cladding, fine, but there's plenty more other costs that still they've been paying for the past 4 years that they would like to see reimbursed. So I think there's still a lot of anger out there. Manchester Gladiators, as I've said, stood outside here in St Peter's Square in October, asking the government for some answers, because for all too long, I think a lot of residents have just simply been left in the dark.
OK, Bradley, thank you. It's interesting you've been getting in touch this morning, and Nigel is a bit sceptical of all of this. He says there's no way that developers will pay for the removal of cladding when you consider how much they donate to political parties. I mean, I guess the point there, Nigel, is going to be whether Michael Gove lives up to what he's looking like he's going to promise and actually force them to do so.
Yeah, but I mean, and who are the developers? Are they the people who built the flats 20 years ago, 30 years ago? Are they still in business? Can they be found and made to cough up?
Yeah, or is it the people who put the cladding? I mean, I don't know.
No, exactly. It's very complicated.
It's
going to roll on, isn't it?
Point.
Yeah. We were talking about 40th birthdays earlier because, as you'll see all over the papers this morning, absolutely sensational pictures of Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge, one of our queens in the future.
Why don't we all like? Why
do we all look like that?
Well, I don't want to look like that, but you know what I mean. Why can't we all have really glamorous pictures?
Well,
it'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, she's a princess, and it is her 40th, and she clearly thinks it's quite a big deal, which is why she's had those official photographs done. We've got lots of people remembering their 40th. Stephen Warden in Leicestershire says, I rather looked forward to my 40th. I didn't really fit in with my younger years. I preferred to study and engage in DIY projects rather than discos and pub crawls.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And hang on, there was another. I was on holiday. This is from Martin. I was on holiday in Gran Canaria for my 40th. I thought my friends had all forgotten because they all complained of tummy bugs and went to bed. An hour later, they all reappeared with balloons and a cake. We then went out dressed as a rainbow and took part in the Pride Parade. Best 40th ever, he said.
Oh, I mean, that's a way to do it. Just something on the Colston statue, because obviously that's going to be a controversial issue for the next few weeks, I should think. Judith Clifton, I don't know if that's Judith Clifton or
Judith in Clifton. Yeah.
Not quite sure, but morning to you, Judith. She says, what happened to Priti Patel's public statement that anyone vandalising our historical heritage would serve a long prison sentence? I can't believe
But only if they've been found guilty, and they weren't found guilty.
No.
That's the point, I think.
I mean, that is the key thing, and whatever evidence a jury is shown, it is entirely up to them what verdict they come up with.
It must have been a reasonable verdict for them, mustn't it?
They've had their reasons, but of course the thing is you can never find out what those reasons are.
No, you'd love to know, really, wouldn't you?
It'd be fascinating.
In America, they'd be interviewing the jurors now, wouldn't they?
Oh, probably.
Jurors come out of big deal cases and tell their stories.
Yeah, but not here.
But not here.
But see, I quite like the way our system works, I think, and some of those protections.
You ever been on a jury?
No, I'd love to.
Would you?
Oh, yeah,
Lots of people dread it.
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I've covered a lot of court cases in my reporting days. Yeah. And I always thought it'd be nice to be actually on the jury.
To actually be making that decision, though, to whether to send somebody to jail or not.
Scary.
It's a big decision, very scary.
Do you fancy a bit of jury duty? Have you done it?
Have you done it? Yeah, what was it like?
Yeah, get in touch
get in touch. You can't give anything legal away, but you can tell us what it was like.
Oh, yes. Don't say anything you shouldn't.
Well, we won't repeat it if you do. GBviews at gbnews.uk. Love to hear from you.
Yeah, we don't want any contempt of court cases, do we?
No, do without that this early in the morning.
It is 7:14. Let's bring you up to date. And a group of MPs is calling on the Attorney-General to refer the Colston statue case to the Court of Appeal. The jury cleared 4 protesters of criminal damage after the monument was pulled down and thrown into the harbour in Bristol in 2020. In a letter to Suella Braverman, the Tory Common Sense group says the verdict was patently absurd and needs urgent review.
Boris Johnson is being warned not to scale back free lateral flow tests following reports that they could be limited to high-risk settings only. Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon and the Labour Party say it would be utterly wrong-headed to do so. It's an interesting use of words, isn't it? Meanwhile, the UK has reached a total COVID-related death toll of more than 150,000 since the pandemic began.
That's something both me and Anne are very excited about. The biggest ever space telescope mirror has now moved into place and could soon explore the depths of the universe. Engineers from NASA and ESA, the European Space Agency, are celebrated as those segments straightened out into its full shape. It's the James Webb Space Telescope mirror. It was launched back on Christmas Day. It's not that long ago. It's going to take about 5 months now to cool down to minus 230 degrees Celsius so that all the infrared, very delicate infrared technology can work.
And one of its absolute objectives is to search for space, for life in space, sorry. Search for space, it's in there. And there she is. Absolutely beautiful portraits of the Duchess of Cambridge. They've released 3 new portraits to mark her turning 40 today. The fashion photographer is Paolo Ravesi. He took the birthday pictures, which showcase in a series of Alexander McQueen dresses with her hair flowing in a very sort of pre-Raphaelite manner. She's also wearing a pair of earrings that were once worn by Diana, Princess of Wales, and also wearing earrings worn by the Queen.
Oh, do you know what our producers just said?
Yeah.
Send us your pictures because did you look as good as Kate? Of course you didn't.
Did you release an official photograph of yourself?
Come on.
Did you have a famous fashion photographer come to your house and take a wonderful portrait of you at 40? See, I wouldn't have wanted to celebrate that.
No, well, no, I think it's quite nice, but I would rather see the messy pictures. I'd rather see you stood on a table in a bar with a... whatever.
Well, we saw your 40th a bit earlier.
Yeah,
we couldn't see your face. You were wearing Tom Baker's face.
Why not? I just regenerated that.
That's what it is.
There you go. So, yeah, send us those pictures, gbviews at gbnews.uk, or you can tweet them at gbnews. Coming up, though, we've got the latest sports headlines with Aidan. But first, let's have a look at your weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Well, let's have a look at the weather for you. And the UK is looking dry across southeast England, but elsewhere a mix of sunshine and showers. So let's have the details for you. And thicker cloud and rain will move into West Cornwall by midday. Elsewhere, remaining bright with sunshine and showers. Not as windy as yesterday, with highs around 9. A dry, bright and fresh morning across southeast England. Light winds, but with plenty of winter sunshine. Chilly with highs of 7. The cloudiest skies across Wales this morning will be in the west, with some showers here. Elsewhere, brighter with sunny spells. Bit of a chilly start, but then a bright morning across much of the Midlands, with plenty of sunny spells, but perhaps just the odd shower. It's a chilly day again, highs of 6 Celsius. Now moving on to northwest England, it's going to be cloudy and damp. Northeast England will be drier and brighter with sunny spells, perhaps a few light showers. Temperatures around 5 Celsius by lunchtime. A cold, frosty but sunny morning across northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, often cloudy with showers, those showers falling as snow over the higher ground. Edinburgh largely cloudy with highs of 5. Fairly cloudy skies expected across Northern Ireland as well, with a scattering of showers. Some of those showers could be heavy at times. Top temperatures 7 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. For the rest of Sunday, rain will edge into the far west. Elsewhere, a scattering of showers are possible. And that's how your weather's shaping up.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Morning.
7:21.
Already.
And you know, I feel quite bright and breezy this morning.
Good. Well, you had a good sleep last night, that's why.
Really good sleep last night. This is Breakfast on GB News. And we all need a good night's sleep. It's not always easy in this job, but it's worth it. We're live on your TV and on your radio this morning. Good morning if you're out and about in the car. I'd love to hear from you today.
Now, many of you will remember a story from 2014, gosh, it's a long time ago now, about a gay rights activist in Northern Ireland who claimed that he had been discriminated when a bakery refused to make a cake for him. The Christian owners of the bakery said they would not make a cake iced with the slogan, "Support gay marriage." That was what the whole issue was about.
Yeah, now the would-be customer, Gareth Lee, sued the company for discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation and political beliefs. Now, following many rulings and years of appeals, the European Court of Human Rights has rejected the case, saying it's inadmissible.
Our Northern Ireland reporter, Dougie Beattie, it's Doogie, isn't it, actually? Beattie has more on this story. Hi there, Doogie.
How are you? And good morning to you from Stormont. It is a very crisp morning here. But you're right, it all does rattle back to 2014 when Gareth Lee walked into the Royal Avenue branch of Asher's Bakery. It was right there that he ordered a cake, but he wanted a slogan supporting gay marriage. All of that, not a problem with it. The company itself, who were Christians, when they seen the slogan on it, said, look, we don't want involved in this, we don't want involved in politics, as many retailers don't. They apologised, they refunded him his money, and he got his cake made elsewhere. The problems really come here is that Gareth then went to the Equality Commission of Northern Ireland. This is a commission that was set up by Mo Molan back in 1998. It replaced all the other commissions, the Fair Employment Commission, the Disability Commission. It became basically a super commission to look after the equality and equal rights of people in Northern Ireland. Now, you can only but imagine the stress and strain that was put on that family for all those years having to defend themselves against a court ruling. And Simon Calvert of the Christian Institute, we caught up with him and he takes up the story from there.
I think, anyone can imagine what it's like to be on the receiving end of litigation, and that's a stressful thing. To be on the receiving end of litigation where you're accused of discriminating against someone, that's pretty horrible. And of course, initially in the county court and the Court of Appeal, the family lost. And the court said that they were discriminatory, and they knew they weren't. They knew they hadn't done anything wrong. And so it wasn't until they got to the UK Supreme Court that they were finally vindicated. I think that we were all disappointed that lawyers for the other side tried to resurrect it by taking the case to Strasbourg. But, it was the right outcome. I mean, the ruling from Strasbourg, in the end, it wasn't even close. They've thrown out Mr. Lee's case at the first hurdle. They've ruled it wasn't admissible. They've said it was doubtful whether his human rights were engaged at all. And in any event, he'd never made any of these arguments at any of the 3 previous stages of the case. So it was a pretty comprehensive, slap down for the appeal. But the family are just really very relieved that it's all over. So when the family first approached us, when the Equality Commission first intimated to them that they might sue them over this, we said that we would not only help them with the legal action and help them with the media and all of that, but that we would cover their legal costs. Christian Institute supporters donate generously to us to help exactly in cases like this. So by the time it was all done and dusted in the domestic courts, it had cost between both sides over £500,000. So we covered the Ashes costs, and the taxpayer through the Equality Commission for Northern Ireland covered Mr. Lee's costs.
Well, we did ask the Equality Commission to come on and give us some sort of reaction as to why they chose to back this case, and they sent us an email basically explaining where they spent the money, but don't seem to hold themselves accountable for why they backed the case in the first place. Why was this case so important to win? Number of reasons, but mainly because the winning of the case actually protects the minorities. It makes sure that nobody can walk in to somewhere and just demand something off a retailer that they don't want to do. It also sails very, very close to the wind with why businesses don't want to be forced to do business with other business. In other words, competition rules. Here's Simon Calvert again.
In our society, you have lots of people with lots of different views, and it's important, if we're going to get along together, that we allow one another to have those different views. And what's so shocking about this case was it was an attempt to force people to go against their most deeply held beliefs. And it's not difficult to imagine how, whatever kind of business you're involved with, sometimes you might get asked to do something that just goes against your most deeply held beliefs. If you are a Muslim and you run a printing company, why should somebody be able to force you to print cartoons of Muhammad? If you are a lesbian couple and you run your own bakery, why should someone be able to force you to do cakes saying that gay marriage is an abomination? That's just, I think most people instinctively know that's not the kind of society that they want to live in. And that's why it was so important that Ashes won their case. I think a lot of people have questions for the Equality Commission for Northern Ireland. Why, in the first instance, they decided to take sides on a very controversial issue and to bring a case against a Christian family over their views on an issue like same-sex marriage, when everybody knows, you might not like Christian views on it, but everybody knows that the mainstream Christian view is that marriage is between a man and a woman. And it's not a view that holds any animosity against anybody, it's just a belief about what marriage is. And so for the Equality Commission to come in on a controversial issue like that, I think a lot of people were very disappointed because, of course, the Commission is meant to defend everybody's rights, not just the rights of one community as against another. And I think a lot of questions are being asked now about the fact that they spent over £250,000 of taxpayers' money on this, and they've lost. So I think the Commission's got a long way to go to rebuild trust, really, with the community at large, that it really does care about everybody's rights, and that they've got good judgment about which cases to back and which ones not to back.
Well, there is questions to be asked here, and I will be asking them, because the Equality Commission is an arm's-length body. It is funded by, behind me here, the Executive Office, and on Monday I will be writing to the Executive Office and asking for someone from the Equality Commission to appear and explain to us why they seen fit to spend £250,000 of public money on a case that really was unwinnable.
Fascinating story, isn't it? Absolutely. I imagine it still divides opinions, though I would hope not. I'd hope that now you could put that whole case to bed.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I just think it's pitted communities against each other over a blinking slogan on a cake. You could have iced it yourself.
Well, yes, but I can see where they're coming from. I can see where they're coming from. And actually, the guy that Doogie you were talking to saying, well, the majority of people, of Christians, don't believe in marriage equality. I don't know if that is necessarily true. Doogie, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, I know lots of Christians and lots of vicars who support marriage equality.
Yeah, but to me, it's not about that. It's about a cake. You know, I know the issue is important, very important, but, you know, if you really, I mean, why spend all that money and all this time upsetting people when actually all they wanted was a cake? They could have put their own slogan on it if it really mattered that much. They wanted to make a huge issue of it. And yes it's got us talking, but I think it's got us talking about the wrong thing. It's not got us talking about whether gay marriage or whether marriage should be between a man and a woman or whatever. It's got us... It's about not being forced to do something that upsets you.
But at a time in 2014 when gay marriage wasn't a thing,
it was therefore a political cake.
And
they didn't want to make a political cake or ice a political cake. I just think it's such an enormous fuss and such a terrible waste of money.
I just think with
over
all
the icing on a cake.
With all of these things, I just think it's not black and white.
No, of course it's not. No,
and we always try to paint it as black and white. One side is right, one side is wrong. I never think it's quite that.
I mean, it's a bit like the Edward Colston statue as well. It upset some people. They pulled the statue down. They clearly did pull the statue down because we saw them doing it, and they admit they did it. And yet they were found not guilty of causing criminal damage. I find it fascinating. I've just been looking through the Daily Mail, and that's where the Edward Colston statue is now, as they say there, in a museum's scruffy storeroom.
And its value's gone up.
Well, yeah, but who wants it, for heaven's sake? I mean, it's lying on its side there, still daubed in paint. Apparently, it was actually on display in the museum. It was taken to the museum, and it's been on display for a while. But after a survey of visitors to the museum, they decided to bung it in a storeroom, and that's where it is.
I do think it's rather odd that, because it's clearly a controversial statue, why you would then take, it's been pushed into the dock or whatever, why then drag it out and put it on display somewhere else? You know it's going to cause offence.
Yeah, apparently in the museum, the tour guide said, look, I've got a long list about this, a long list of things I can and cannot say, so I've decided not to say anything at all.
Yeah.
So maybe that is... I mean, Edward Colston, a very contentious character, made his money from the slave trade, but then was very philanthropic throughout Bristol, built museums and schools, and, I mean, he gave his money, if you like,
his name's on loads
his name's
of
on everything.
things,
The Colston Hall was very, very famous, concert hall in Bristol. Did that... I mean, it was in a way of laundering money. Did that make him a good person in the end?
Or do we
Clearly
need
not.
to look at everything within a historic context?
Perhaps all money is dirty.
Sure. Do you know what? It will be one way or another. One way or
Maybe
another.
there's no such thing as clean money, really.
Let us know what you think. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Now, the Gruffalo author. I've never read the Gruffalo, actually.
Me either, but it's a very big deal.
It is, yeah. She's slammed mask wearing in schools.
Yeah, the writer and former teacher, Julia Donaldson, says that children are being sacrificed to protect the NHS. She also brands the decision to force children to wear masks in school as dystopian.
What do you think, Anne? I know you're not a huge fan of children wearing masks, are you?
No, I know why we did it in the first place in the beginning of the pandemic. I just think it's gone on so long now. Our children are suffering. They should be able to see each other's faces during the school day. It is dystopian. Whether it's the right thing to do or not, I don't know, but it is dystopian.
Why is it dystopian?
Because we've got a whole generation almost of children who've gone through the last 2 years not being taught properly, and of how if they go to school, you know, having to socially distance and not be able to see each other's faces.
But what about
that's not how children should have, you know,
But what about the cultural side? If you go to other parts of the world, I mean, particularly over to sort of Asia, then people wear masks all the time. Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot of smog and pollutants in the air, much worse than we do over here. But it's just become a thing. It's a
absolutely. And in some countries, it's
thing.
cultural. Of course, they wear the hijab or the burqa or something, and they don't see each other's faces except at home so much. I don't know. I find it dystopian. I agree with Julia Donaldson, but I think it's a difficult issue at the moment while we're trying to beat COVID.
I think the thing with this one is what you think, and particularly if I can't imagine many children at secondary school are going to be up at this time of day wanting to watch the news. But if you are, get in touch. Would love to hear what you think, what it's like in the classroom, or if you're a teacher in one of those classrooms where children have to wear masks.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a teacher in secondary school at the moment, you've just done the last week back at school, I wonder what it's been like for you.
Must be a bit of a strange experience. Love to hear your thoughts. Coming up, though, we'll see what the papers are making of all the stories that are floating about today. That's in just a couple of minutes.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Morning to you. 7:37. This is Breakfast on GB News on your TV and on your radio this morning. Lots of views coming in about the Colston statue. Loads and loads and loads. And actually, you all come to the same decision. I mean, Clive says it's OK for people to have an opinion. It's not OK for them to take the law into their own hands. If a group of people want to campaign for the removal of a statue of a historic figure, they should do it peacefully and lawfully.
Yes, Paddy in Andover says pulling down statues as an exercise in denying our history is futile. Every person living in the UK, even if they arrived yesterday, is a beneficiary of our history, right or wrong, whether they like it or not. If one person in this country is somehow guilty of events that happened hundreds of years ago, then all of us are. It's not quite that black and white, though, is it?
No, I don't think so. Pete puts it in a way that I think perhaps is a bit more understandable. He says, what happened years ago can't be changed or erased. Does it have to be celebrated, though,
No.
I guess?
And it can be an insult to some people to have a statue of him and to venerate him, I think probably is very insulting to a lot of the population in Bristol.
Yeah, but we can't ignore it. That's what I would...
No, you can't you can't whitewash it out from history. I like this point. Norman in Kent, good morning, Norman, says, we don't seem to develop immunity to viral diseases like flu or the common cold. Why should we expect to do so with COVID? Flu kills people every year, doesn't it?
It does, but it's always a different strain every year, isn't it?
And they do bring out a vaccination for it every year.
So, yeah, it's interesting. I've got to say, Amy's been in touch. She says, can we get a shout-out for Gary McKee and his backroom staff in Cumbria, my home county, so always happy to give Cumbria a mention. They were on GB News last week. Today, they're running day 9 of 365 consecutive marathons.
They deserve a shout-out every day, I think.
Oh, every single day.
Yeah.
365 consecutive marathons.
One more on the cake.
Oh, go on.
Can I say, as a gay man, I'm pleased. This is from Matt. Hi, Matt. I'm pleased that the European Court has come to the decision they did. It works both ways. What if someone wanted a cake saying against gay marriage and the bakery refused to make that? They were not against gays, but they just didn't believe in marriage and they didn't want to ice it in that way. The Equality Commission have wasted so much money. Well, Doogie's going to ask the Equality Commission. He's going to try and ask those questions, isn't he?
He is. Keep your thoughts coming through. GBviews at gbnews.uk, or you can tweet us at GBnews. Let's have a look at the front of the newspapers for you. End mass jabs and treat COVID like we do the flu is the top line of The Observer. The comments by the former chairman of the UK's vaccine task force called for a major rethink of the UK's COVID strategy and a return to a new normal.
The Times says free lateral flow tests could face the axe under a strategy of living with COVID. Under proposals drawn up by the government, the new system could mean free tests would only be provided to high-risk bodies such as care homes, hospitals and schools.
Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has warned she'll trigger Article 16 of the Brexit agreement if the EU won't bend. That's the main story in the Sunday Telegraph this morning. The new Brexit negotiator has insisted that Britain will overhaul the rules surrounding Northern Ireland unilaterally if they can't reach a negotiated solution. Why have we still got a Brexit negotiator?
Yeah. Haven't we got Brexit? Well, it just shows that it's just not over, it's not finished, it's not complete. A Sunday Express exclusive has Priti Patel warning the House of Lords not to block her crime bill. She says it's time for tougher justice.
For The Independent, it says the oil industry were invited by the government to help write new rules on drilling, just weeks, of course, after the COP26 summit in Glasgow. It needs a few questions answered around that one, I think.
Well, be a true Tory, Boris, or you're finished. Those are the words of ex-Brexit Minister Lord Frost in the Mail. He says the Prime Minister must reset his government along more traditional Conservative lines.
Danny Dyer has quit EastEnders. It's left the BBC show, easy for me to say, in crisis.
Or not.
That's in the Sunday Mirror.
And the Sun on Sunday says England footballer Jack Grealish spent the night with a Towie star at a hideaway villa. As you do.
Why not? The Daily Star brings us the most important story of the day. It says Yuri Geller will cause a historical earthquake by finding the sacred Ark of the Covenant, and he's going to dig it up soon.
With his spoon, I expect. That'll bend a few spoons, won't it?
Can you imagine if he dug it out with a teaspoon? Wouldn't that be good?
Yes.
Oh,
digging with a spoon certainly bends spoons.
We shall wait and see. Let's have a look through the papers now in a bit more detail with Ella Whelan, columnist and podcaster at Spiked Online, and Nabila Ramdani, journalist and broadcaster. Good to see you both this morning.
Hello.
Let's kick off Nabila, with the Sunday Times and Novak Djokovic.
Yes, indeed. I mean, we talk about COVID-19 affecting every aspect of life, and this is one of those stories that just becomes extraordinary by the day. And the latest is that Novak Djokovic, the world's #1 tennis player, effectively he posed for a photograph surrounded by youngsters without a mask, and only a day after his lawyer said he tested positive for COVID-19. So this means that he was either being extremely irresponsible or he didn't have the virus. Who knows? But this
and of course, and having the virus is the reason for his exemption in Australia that he applied for.
Well, absolutely. This is all part of an ongoing saga involving Djokovic, and it's very hard to know how it will pan out. But he's undoubtedly one of the greatest players ever, and he quite rightly has fans all over the world. But I have to say that this COVID story has turned him into an anti-hero, and he's now detested by millions. And he's still in an immigration centre in Melbourne. Apparently, he's eating awful food.
Maggoty food, they say.
And he's effectively being treated like a prisoner. So, you know, you see normally stories about money and celebrity trumping everything, but the fact that Djokovic is already effectively being incarcerated suggests otherwise in this case.
But he's just being treated like everybody else, though, isn't he?
Yeah, but the trouble is with Djokovic, his body is a temple, isn't it?
Well, so is mine.
And he has his own nutritionist to give him, you know, and he's just before a major tournament that he wants to win. The longer he stays in that hotel, the more unsettled he's going to be out of his comfort zone, isn't he?
My heart bleeds.
Yeah, you don't have an awful lot of
I have no
sympathy for him, do you?
sympathy. I have no sympathy at all.
Well, as someone who's, you know, I'm very pro-vaccine, I would completely disagree with Djokovic's views on it. I mean, he, like many elite sports people, he has some pretty crackers views when it comes to health. He's got this idea that you can talk special energy into water. He thinks that you get different energy from different places. He's got, obviously, a very strict nutritional regime. Lots of things that I might think, oh, just have a packet of crisps and shut up. But, you know, I'm not an elite tennis player. But in relation to this, you know, whether or not you go to Djokovic for your medical advice is up to you. But the way I think that the Australian government is using this is not necessary. It's not that Djokovic is kind of patient zero, a huge health threat. It's not that even that Australia is at a point at the moment where allowing someone like Djokovic to come in would be a problem. I think he's become a sort of folk devil in that he's being used to make a wider point, which perhaps isn't necessarily fair on him. Saying that...
Except, if this picture is right, as Nabila said, either he tested positive for COVID and didn't bother, or he didn't actually test positive at all.
So, yeah, saying that, stories like this, which show that there is still that kind of old level of elitism among celebrities where they feel like the normal rules don't apply to me. And unfortunately, with Djokovic, it's becoming harder by the day to defend him.
Yeah.
OK, Ella, the Observer, looking at the Colston statue.
Yeah, I think this was just an interesting way into it because within the Observer they have an sort of semi-interview with Rhiannon Graham, who was one of the Colston Four and has become the kind of spokesperson for the group. And what she's really saying is she's hitting back at the criticism of the jury verdict. And she's saying, don't misuse our acquittals as part of this feeble war on woke. And the interesting thing about it is that I think there's two things going on with the Colston verdict. There is the thing that a lot of people can't get their head around, which is that, as the Observer points out, Graham brought rope to the demonstration. You know, very clearly on footage that was captured of the day, you know, everyone had a phone without filming it. There was lots of evidence that showed that these people were involved in tearing down the statue. And so in relation to the hard law of what constitutes criminal damage or not, I think lots of people are scratching their head and saying, how can a jury have come to this? But the important thing is that the Colston Four and Graham herself has said that we weren't arguing that we had engaged in criminal damage. In fact, what we were doing was righting the wrongs of history, and that the offensiveness and the abusiveness of the Colston statue remaining in place meant that legally we weren't in fact doing criminal damage, we were doing something positive. And I think that's where you have to say that there's two things going on here. There's the legal case, but there's also a political problem, which is that you cannot solve the political culture war issue of statues, of whether or not people want Churchill, whether or not people want Colston. You know, in terms of offensiveness, Oliver Cromwell is outside Houses of Parliament who murdered, you know, countless numbers of my ancestors. I'm Irish. I don't think I'm going to be going down with a rope and pulling him down anytime soon. But the politics of this discussion can't be solved in the court.
But is this why it has to go to the Court of Appeal? Not to try to overturn the verdict, but in terms of looking at the precedents of all of this.
Well, the legal arguments that were allowed to be argued.
Yeah, but if she's saying, well, we were righting historical wrongs, well, that does give a carte blanche for other people to do what they want.
Well, it's tricky because jury verdicts don't necessarily set legal precedents. And I feel very strongly that at a time when juries are quite often called into question in relation to other court cases, very much want to defend the idea that a jury of your peers decide what your fate is. That's a kind of fundamental point of our belief in justice and liberty. But the political aspect of this, about the idea that an inanimate object like a statue could inhabit so much emotion of abuse or be so offensive as to warrant this kind of legal decision. That's the interesting thing. And I don't think Suella Braverman's move to get this to the Court of Appeal will change that, because that is a political issue that happens on the streets, that happens among people, and it doesn't get solved by a ruling by a judge.
What do you think of the so-called wokery of it? As well? I mean, should there be a committee on every council now looking at their statues or, whatever that could be causing offence and actually taking a responsible view?
So, lots of people don't like the word woke. Some people think I think it can be a little bit silly. But the idea that that statues or monuments or things that exist in the world can cause us such grievous harm as to be compared with what Colston did, which was engage in the slave trade, and no matter how much he tried to whitewash his decisions his moves afterwards by giving a few quid to the poor, the wrong of that being compared to a statue existing today, I think is a complete perversion, and you end up in a situation in which you paint these Colston 4 people are painting the citizens of Bristol as so in need of protection, as so sort of fragile as to be threatened by a statue. And I think that sets quite a dangerous political precedent.
Isn't the bottom line that you shouldn't take the law into your own hands, and all this can be sorted through education, effectively? Educating people about the legacy of Colston and right the historical...
Sometimes you have to, though, don't you? Throughout history, sometimes you have to actually take the law into your own hands to make a point, because nobody will listen.
Well,
statues have been toppled all over the world, and actually at the end of this Observer article, it makes an interesting point, which is that this is part of Colston's history. The statue was put up at a certain time. It's been torn down now. It is a part of history. How we deal with that history, I think, should be more open than it being... there's I think it leaves a slight sour taste in people's mouth watching these 4 young white kids turn up on the court steps and say, we have won a moment for racial equality.
I still feel the verdict would have been slightly different if those 4 young people happened to be black and wearing hoodies.
Yeah,
that's
very much so.
That's a very fair point, and actually someone's
made that, isn't it? Yes, in fact, just trying to find that.
Yes, I can't find that
one of our lovely viewers.
But yeah, they made that point. And I think
here we are.
No,
it was Judith in Clifton. Didn't you read it out? No, it's not that one.
No.
I'll find it in a minute.
Yeah, we'll find it. We'll find it for you.
Give me half an hour.
In the meantime, Nabila, just to wrap us up in the Sunday Times, I've known you a long time. Why am I not surprised you've picked a story about boozing up at lockdown?
Well, that is a Sunday Times question. They asked, did Johnson and wife attend BIOB lockdown booze up? Now, BIOB stands for Bring Your Own Bottle, so there's no doubt that this is related to a story about a party that took place during coronavirus restrictions. Now, there has been no confirmation by Downing Street that the couple attended the party, but there has not... but there hasn't been any denial either, so that's the important point in all this. I think, to me, may I just say that beyond the obvious concerns about breaking lockdown restrictions, the main takeaway in all these kinds of stories is how much senior politicians and civil servants seem to drink, don't you think? I mean, it might be of concern to some. And are they not going down the French route by bringing their own bottle of wine rather than beer?
Oh, you should go down the French route. Well, you'd approve of that. Look, really good to see you both this morning. Thank you very much indeed. Catch up with you a little bit later on.
Yeah. Did you read? I read in one of the papers that Boris Johnson and his wallpaper on in the flat.
Yeah.
800 quid a roll.
What?
£800 a roll. Apparently that wallpaper was. I think I'm being extravagant if I use wallpaper that's 80 quid a roll, but £800 a roll.
I've never used wallpaper.
No, it's best not to if it costs that.
I'm just a painter. But, it's crackers.
Talking of Prime Ministers, could it get any worse for Tony Blair? Yesterday we reported there were over 1 million signatures on a petition calling for his knighthood to be revoked.
Well, today, newspaper reports claim he secretly promised George W. Bush that he'd spin the Iraq war to the world.
Yes, it's in a leaked Downing Street memo. Apparently, Mr Blair's foreign policy chief, Sir David Manning, documented the pledge made between the pair following a summit in April 2002. And that's a year, of course, before the conflict began.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it? OK, let's catch up with the latest sport with Aidan. Morning, morning, morning.
Morning.
And we can talk about, the giant killers of Cambridge.
Absolutely. I mean, who'd have thought that yesterday? Yes, Newcastle on a bad run and they're fighting relegation, but they are confirmed now, as of 2 or 3 months ago, as the richest club in the world. Cambridge United, in contrast, as I mentioned before, this is a club, or this is a city which is famous for lots of other things except football. They haven't had a sustained period of success for the last 30-odd years. In fact, Dion Dublin was in the side last time they did anything in football. He now presents Homes Under the Hammer. So his career's gone, I suppose, upwards, up the stairs, I suppose you'd say. That was a pun, but a superb victory and a superb performance as well for Cambridge. They took their chance. Their goalkeeper was very good on the day, which you need to do. And I think you can see, I think Anne's holding up the picture of... that's the owner and his partner, and his partner Amanda Staveley, who did the deal to get the job, to get the...
How much did they pay for Newcastle?
They paid just shy of £400 million.
Wow.
But it's a drop in the ocean compared to what they're worth.
I know, but to go to the first match and see them lose so badly, it must be...
Yeah, no, that wasn't the first match, but it's still very early in the reign. I mean, they're second from bottom in the league. They're 2 points off. I mean, some supporters, if you're cynical about it, or positive, depending on your point of view, might look at it as a blessing because they've got a huge fight on their hands. They cannot get relegated from the Premier League this season. It'll be a disaster because they'll find it more difficult to sign players next season. They won't be able to attract players to the Championship the way they would to the Premier League. And so it's going to be extremely difficult, and they need to stay in. And so if you haven't got the distraction of the FA Cup, then, although saying that, he played quite a strong team yesterday, so he was taking it seriously. So if you haven't got the distraction of the FA Cup, you've probably got a better chance of staying up, but sometimes football isn't that simple.
It's interesting what Alan Shearer said about it.
Yeah, it was only one word, though, wasn't it? Pathetic.
Yeah, well...
and the guy who scored the goal was actually a big Shearer fan, used to go and watch the Newcastle games as a kid. Listen, they've been knocked out in the last 10 years by plenty of sides from the lower leagues, but this one was particularly painful yesterday because it is a side from League One who aren't particularly strong in League One. I went to Cambridge Stadium in the summer to watch QPR play in a friendly, and it's pretty much the same as it was about 30 years ago.
Right.
So Newcastle have taken this step into a different stratosphere. Just to contextualise it, their wealth combined, or their wealth is worth more than the rest of the Premier Leagues combined.
What?
Yes,
wow.
Absolutely. By quite a long way as well.
Really?
Yeah, we're talking probably £40 billion here. Compared
God, it's
to...
silly money, isn't it?
It is. I mean, when you consider Abramovich at Chelsea is worth probably £4 billion, you're talking the Sheikhs at Man City are worth about 9, 10, something like that. I think so. I'll have to check on that. But Newcastle's wealth is worth more by a long way than the rest of the Premier Leagues combined. They'll probably win the Premier League in the next 5 years. That's the reality of it.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to.
Yeah, I mean, they have to
justify that money.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're going to have to play better than they played against Cambridge, though.
Yeah, well, what do you think Trippier's going to be feeling?
Well, look, I mean, he's not come here to win FA Cup games necessarily. The task for him is to keep them in the league, but it's a bad start. There's no question about that. I mean, this is a guy who won La Liga recently with Atletico. He had England briefly dreaming 3 years ago or 4 years ago now in the World Cup semi-final when his free kick gave us the lead against Croatia. So this is a guy who's used to high achievement, and he goes to Newcastle in what is... Yes, they've had a little bounce because of the takeover, but it's a toxic atmosphere now. You know, it's very, very difficult because there's optimism there, but when they're seeing the team not improving, and they're meant to be signing players this month, and they've only got one through the door, and we're a third of the way through the window, they're not seeing the progress that they would like, and they've got a relegation battle to win.
Yeah, haven't they just? OK, Aidan, thank you. Catch up with you later. OK, well, there's lots more still coming up for you. Of course, in the next hour, including a political discussion with a letter written to Attorney General Suella Braverman calling for the Colston statue case to be referred to the Court of Appeal.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Well, let's have a look at the weather for you. And the UK is looking dry across southeast England, but elsewhere a mix of sunshine and showers. So let's have the details for you. And thicker cloud and rain will move into West Cornwall by midday. Elsewhere, remaining bright with sunshine and showers. Not as windy as yesterday, with highs around 9. A dry, bright and fresh morning across southeast England. Light winds, but with plenty of winter sunshine. Chilly with highs of 7. The cloudiest skies across Wales this morning will be in the west, with some showers here. Elsewhere, brighter with sunny spells. Bit of a chilly start, but then a bright morning across much of the Midlands, with plenty of sunny spells, but perhaps just the odd shower. It's a chilly day again, highs of 6 Celsius. Now moving on to northwest England, it's going to be cloudy and damp. Northeast England will be drier and brighter with sunny spells, perhaps a few light showers. Temperatures around 5 Celsius by lunchtime. A cold, frosty but sunny morning across northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, often cloudy with showers, those showers falling as snow over the higher ground. Edinburgh largely cloudy with highs of 5. Fairly cloudy skies expected across Northern Ireland as well, with a scattering of showers. Some of those showers could be heavy at times. Top temperatures 7 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. For the rest of Sunday, rain will edge into the far west. Elsewhere, a scattering of showers are possible. And that's how your weather's shaping up.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Morning to you, it's 8 o'clock on Sunday the 9th of January. This is Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon.
And me, Anne Diamond.
We're on your TV, your phone, and now, of course, on your radio as well.
And you can now find us on DAB+, so you've got absolutely no excuse not to take us with you. Here's what we have for you
I
this
saw that,
morning.
yeah.
A group of MPs have written to Attorney General Suella Braverman calling for the Colston statute case to be referred to the Court of Appeal. This week, a jury cleared 4 protesters in Bristol of criminal damage after the monument was toppled. We'll talk to one of the signatories this morning.
Housing Secretary Michael Gove is set to announce new measures aimed at forcing developers to pay for cladding removal from buildings. It's part of plans to ease the unfair burden that some leaseholders faced after the Grenfell fire. Our reporter Bradley Harris is in Manchester for us this morning. We'll be joining him shortly.
Now, is there light at the end of the tunnel? I guess it all depends on how you view all of this sort of thing. The Sunday Times says free lateral flow tests could be facing the axe as the Prime Minister considers how we learn to live with COVID.
And don't forget, what you have to say is key to this new show. Whether you're listening on the radio or watching us on TV, do get in touch about the stories we're discussing today or anything else you find interesting, frankly. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet at gbnews.
Now, it's very nice to see sunrises because actually, I like this studio, but we are stuck inside.
Yeah, we're in
the
the basement.
There you go. So to see, and it's also important to see where you were out and about this morning and whereabouts you live in the country or elsewhere.
So you've been sending us some pictures in. Thank you very much. Gives us an idea of where you are and how glorious is our beautiful British countryside, etc. Yeah. Let's have a look at our first one then. I think this one's from Matthew Taylor.
Oh,
wow. Look at that. Now, if you're listening on the radio, I'm sorry, you'll have to catch up on the app, but this is an absolutely gorgeous, bright pink sunrise, isn't it? It's outside his workplace in Wigan. Who knew Wigan looked so beautiful this time in the morning? Lovely.
Gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. Well, if you want to go further afield, how about the east coast of Spain? Jessica Lee has sent this in. I wonder where exactly on the east coast.
Yeah, she really is on the coast. That's nothing but sea there and the glorious orange burning sky. It looks fantastic. Beautiful. Gilly Jenkins' sunrise in Swansea is next.
Oh, nice, very orange.
Unbelievable colours. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you for that. And then we've got another one, Louise Oliver, who's celebrating her 40th in South Africa.
Oh, hello.
Oh, there she is. Oh, how
40.
lovely. No, you do not look 40, but that does look very South Africa-y behind you, mountains in the distance.
It's
and a fantastic birthday cake.
The cake is the thing that does it for me. That looks absolutely beautiful with your sort of lions and tigers and all that.
It's a two-tiered birthday cake with a big 40 on the top and lots of, African lions and zebras and all sorts of things going on the cake. Absolutely lovely. Thank you very much. That's nice.
I love all of that. You've got to have a decent cake. That's what I say.
Yeah, even if you never eat it. Do you eat cake? I don't eat cake, but you have to have a cake.
You don't
Everybody
eat
else?
cake?
No, I don't like cake.
Oh, I love cake.
Rather,
I
like
love
savoury.
cake.
I like savoury stuff. I'd rather have a sandwich.
Yeah, well, I like savoury stuff, and I can't eat a lot of sweet stuff because I'm type 1. But for big occasions,
you have to have a cake with candles, don't you? Absolutely. Now, as many of you will know, masks have become compulsory in schools. Many people have been sceptical of its effectiveness. Combined with that, many teachers are off sick as isolation rules force staff to remain at home. So let's be joined now, I think, by Jeff Barton, who's General Secretary of the Association of School and College Leaders. Hello there.
Good morning, Anne. Good morning, Steve.
How have the last few days been, then, with youngsters wearing masks back in school?
Well, if we do the masks bit first, Anne, because I heard your comments echoing what Julia Donaldson was saying there. And, I'm an English teacher by background, so no one in the real world would want young people to be behind face coverings because teaching is an education business which depends on communication. Of course, you need to be able to see the responses of young people. They need to be able to see you as the teacher. But then these are not normal times, are they? And I think what was happening prior to Christmas is that face coverings had been introduced in the classroom in Wales, in Northern Ireland, in Scotland. Parents in England were saying, so what's so different about England? Just explain that to us. And I think that what young people have said, and I've just been reading an email from a secondary head who runs a school of 1,200, who said, what these young people are saying to us is, of course, we don't want to wear face coverings. But if what that means is that we are less likely to have disrupted education because we won't be transmitting the virus so much to our friends and we won't be transmitting it to our teachers, and therefore more of us can actually be physically in the classroom, and there is an end date to this, we hope, of 24th of January, well, that's a price worth paying. And I think that is a sign of how young people are showing a kind of maturity around a debate which I know is raging out there, particularly on the back benches. I'm not sure it's raging in schools and colleges where young people and their teachers and the leaders I represent, more than anyone, are determined that we keep young people in schools. And that would be a small price to pay, a few weeks of having to wear face coverings.
So from your perspective then, do you think we're in a situation where people are being offended on behalf of children rather than the children being concerned themselves?
I think there is a bit of a sense of that, Stephen. I actually think we've had that since the beginning of the pandemic. I think young people have been presented as the victims in all of this, which, of course, not being able to be in school, they are. Some of the language, I think, has been deeply unhelpful. Right from the beginning, we heard young people being talked of as the lost generation. We heard a complete emphasis on recovery, as if they were ill, and catch up, as if they were falling way behind. Now, of course, there are significant issues. The government could have been doing more throughout all of this. But I do think there is a bit of a sense that what we've seen, I mean, for example, here's the head teacher, another head teacher who's emailed me overnight, saying we are very fortunate that our students are wearing face masks and complying. We had 1,200 in last Tuesday. They were pleased to be back. They had to queue up for more than an hour to have their lateral flow test. The atmosphere was lovely in spite of the long queues. It made it all worthwhile. And I think sometimes we get these caricatures around what schools and colleges are like from people on the outside, and we don't recognise the resilience both of those young people who are kind of getting on with it, the teachers and the other staff who are doing so much more to help them to get on with it, and the leaders I represent who, however much they might be feeling anxiety, know that they owe it to their communities to say, look, let's just get this behind us and let's do what is necessary to get it behind us.
But what worries me is that it's just gone on for such a long time. And we all know, if you're a parent yourself, you know how incredibly important it is to interact with your children simply by looking at them. Facial recognition, in other words. Children learn such a lot from looking at your face, from other people's faces. It's a sort of social interaction. We don't even know how powerful it is. And for such a long time, these youngsters have been in school not able to just have that very, very natural response to the people around them. That's the thing that worries me.
Oh, of course. I mean, none of us thinks that this should be the norm. None of us thinks it should be ideal. It is worth just acknowledging that if you've got a child in England, then your child will not have been wearing a face covering in the classroom for the majority of the time. That's been quite different from some other parts of the UK. But yeah, there's all kinds of reasons. I mentioned the pedagogic reason, that is, it isn't great for communication in the classroom. And the other thing, just worth saying, Anne, is if in normal times when I'm in school, and I used to be head of a comprehensive school, if I was a child who was, I don't know, autistic, for example, for whom wearing a face covering is something which is unthinkable. Well, in normal times, nothing was drawing attention to me. Now, if I'm the only young person in a classroom who's not wearing a face covering, I'm going to feel kind of exposed by all of that. So I totally understand the arguments. I've never been a proponent of face coverings, but I am a proponent for pragmatism. I'm someone who thinks that education needs to be delivered in the classroom where we can. And if one part of the mitigation, alongside ventilation, alongside vaccination, alongside on-site testing and all those other things that we've been calling for are now happening, if that's one thing we have to do till the 24th of January, well, don't take it from me. Take it from those 1,200 young people in the school who didn't want to do it, but they're doing it because education matters to them.
Are children more resilient than we give them credit for?
I think so. I mean, it sounds a bit cheesy, Stephen, this. It'll surprise you, Stephen, that I'm going to be cheesy now. But there is a bit of a sense, I think, that if you think of the Second World War, when 3 times during the Second World, those children as evacuees were evacuated from the cities to the countryside, 1939, 1940, 1945. They look back, and what they say, and you read accounts from the evacuees, is they got to meet people they wouldn't have seen otherwise. They got to hear accents they wouldn't have seen. They got to see places they wouldn't have seen. And whilst this isn't quite the same, obviously, I think there is a sense that these young people, caricatured as victims early on, will be able to say, look what we were able to do. Look how we were able to learn online and learn on behalf of the nation what online learning might look like. That should become something which becomes part of the mix in the future of education, I suspect, and they are the generation who've helped us to pioneer that. But they've shown extraordinary resilience at a time of woeful political leadership, when one day young people were being told to go back into school. By the end of that day, schools were closed for 4 weeks, and all the anxiety around exams. You've got exams starting this week, and you've got hundreds of thousands of young people who will be sitting their exams this week, and that will be symbolically very important, I think, because what they will be demonstrating is even in the middle of winter, even in the middle of Omicron, we are able to run exams. And what that will demonstrate is the likelihood that exams will be able to run more as normal in the summer. So this is a decisive moment, and I pay tribute to those young people, to their teachers and the leaders who I represent for making all of this happen.
You're absolutely right. I mean, you paint the picture very colourfully there that a whole generation of children went through a war. And as you said, were evacuated. In fact, they went through the backs of wardrobes and discovered other countries, didn't they? With witches and lions and things like that. They were evacuees in the war.
Oh, they were, Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
So maybe it gave rise to some great works of literature as well. But no, I do get that children are very resilient, and it is an experience that one day they will remember. Hopefully it won't live with us forever and affect their education. It's great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah. And
Thank you,
it's good that the teachers, at least, are not wearing masks. So you can see who the man or the woman who's teaching you and interact.
I just think it's really interesting that we do. And do you know what? I think this is partly what GB News is all about, because it's very easy to form an opinion from an outside perspective. What matters is getting other views, isn't it? I mean, you might not agree. You might well not agree with what Jeff was saying there, but perhaps it's changed your mind, or it's just given you a slightly different perspective. And that's crucial, isn't it? As we all try to understand each other a bit more and understand the world, that we listen to these different
I agree with him
views.
in that I didn't like all this talk last year of a lost generation. They weren't a lost generation. It was not easy staying at home and being taught by your mum and dad. And, of course, in some cases, it wasn't easy at all for some children who were not being very well looked after at home at all. But children are resilient, and we had to get through it, didn't we? And they have done. And they'll always remember it, I guess. Like I was saying yesterday, I remember the 4-day week and having to do my homework by candlelight. Ooh, that was bad.
That was... You sounded northern then.
Ooh, that were bad. That were tough.
I like you even more there. Now, a group of MPs have written to the Attorney-General, Suella Braverman, calling for the Colston statue case to be referred to the Court of Appeal.
Yes, MPs question Wednesday's court decision to clear 4 people of tearing down that statue of slave trader Edward Colston during the Black Lives Matter protest in Bristol nearly 2 years ago.
Well, the verdict has ignited, I suppose, what you could call culture wars, with some questioning if it was based on political feeling rather than facts.
Well, yesterday, one of the 4 cleared of charges argued jury trials and freedom of speech are the cornerstones of our society.
Well, let's talk to political commentator Connor Tomlinson. Morning to you, Connor. I mean, there is a problem here, isn't there, that this has become... The justice system in this particular case has become quite politicised.
Definitely. The cornerstone of English common law is that you get a trial by the jury of your peers, and it's meant to be impartial, it's meant to be impugned from political bias. The problem is, as we've seen with some of the verdicts, particularly since the 2020 riots, let's call them as they are, and both in America and the UK, those have been thrown into a stark light because everyone's being afraid of called racist if you assert that, for example, we shouldn't destroy property damage and we shouldn't be allowed to let people get away with waging a cultural revolution against even the most sordid parts of British history just because they're mildly offended. It's kind of disturbing then that it seems like some of the Labour MPs have even joined their Conservative opponents from across the hall in saying that this isn't a good idea. For example, even Steve Reid gave an interview recently where he said, I don't think this is the kind of country we should be living in where vigilante justice is carried out just because people are upset at something that happened in history. And then you have the Labour frontbench, like Emily Thornberry, who tweeted something staggering saying, the Attorney General should be upholding the rule of law and not intervening in political matters when she doesn't like the outcome of a trial. That's kind of hilarious with someone who looked to overturn Brexit. So I think it's become a stark sort of culture war battle, as you said in your opening question.
I mean, is there a sense then in this that, I mean, the problem is people don't like, I mean, and a lot of people messaging us this morning, they don't like the verdict. They can't see how this has been reached, but we have to protect the importance of a jury's decision, don't we? I mean, we can't say they've got it wrong. They're the ones hearing the evidence and coming to their decision.
I mean, we can say they got it wrong morally. Of course, you already said in your earlier panel discussion that there is no legal precedent set. So it's going to be quite a difficult thing to take this to the Court of Appeals and get this somehow arbitrated. The only problem is, I think it's sitting uncomfortable with a lot of people that there are 11-to-1 majority in a town in this country where they throw out the English way of doing things, which is by the book, by a legal precedent, and you don't go around destroying other people's property, public or private, just because you're upset about something. Now, I'm not going to defend Edward Colston throughout history. What he did was abhorrent. But we can't correct the sins of history. All we can do is say we live in the present, we've done much better than we used to, but that's not to motivate the protesters. And it was quite hilarious when one of the Colston Four came out and said, freedom of speech and the rule of law is the cornerstone of the country. Well, the ideology that you're backing, which is Black Lives Matter organisation, which the statue to a BLM protester where the Black Power fist was raised in Colston instead, they are expressly Marxist. They don't operate by the rule of law. They actually hate the rule of law. They believe in class justice. They believe in dictating sins and praise by group rather than individuality. So you can't appeal to Britain's historical standards while also tearing down what Britain has stood for, good or evil.
You know, just in a short answer, is there what will happen next? What could happen legally next? Could that jury decision be overturned in any way?
I would be surprised if it would, just because it doesn't seem that it can be taken any further. Obviously, I'll defer to the more legal experts on that. I think there's the political will for future cases to not be governed in the same way. I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, you saw something similar happen with the George Floyd trial, which was heavily politicised and the jurors were threatened, and that came out as a guilty verdict. And you saw the Carl Rittenhouse trial in the States. It was also to do with the riots, where the judge started intervening and policing the prosecution's distortion of the facts quite severely. So I think future cases like this, you could see a bit more of a crackdown on what is obviously a criminal act.
Yeah, well, it will go on because there are other statues, I imagine, and somebody will be looking at this and thinking, what next?
Yeah.
Doesn't stop here.
It's a really interesting debate, isn't it? Connor, really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you. Now, Showbiz in just a couple of minutes for you. Golden Globes.
I don't know much about the Golden Globes.
I don't really. I'm more sort of focused on BAFTAs and Oscars. I'm more familiar with, but there's going to be no broadcast, no live streaming, no celebs, which is a bit weird.
Which is the whole point, isn't it?
Well, you think so. It's all
If
about...
you can't do the razzmatazz, maybe just put it off for a year.
That's a very good idea. We'll talk to our Showbiz correspondent in a couple of minutes, but first, here's the weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Well, let's have a look at the weather for you. And the UK is looking dry across southeast England, but elsewhere a mix of sunshine and showers. So let's have the details for you. And thicker cloud and rain will move into West Cornwall by midday. Elsewhere, remaining bright with sunshine and showers. Not as windy as yesterday, with highs around 9. A dry, bright and fresh morning across southeast England. Light winds, but with plenty of winter sunshine. Chilly with highs of 7. The cloudiest skies across Wales this morning will be in the west, with some showers here. Elsewhere, brighter with sunny spells. Bit of a chilly start, but then a bright morning across much of the Midlands, with plenty of sunny spells, but perhaps just the odd shower. It's a chilly day again, highs of 6 Celsius. Now, moving on to northwest England, it's going to be cloudy and damp. Northeast England will be drier and brighter with sunny spells, perhaps a few light showers. Temperatures around 5 Celsius by lunchtime. A cold, frosty but sunny morning across northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, often cloudy with showers, those showers falling as snow over the higher ground. Edinburgh largely cloudy with highs of 5. Fairly cloudy skies expected across Northern Ireland as well, with a scattering of showers. Some of those showers could be heavy at times. Top temperatures 7 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. For the rest of Sunday, rain will edge into the far west. Elsewhere, a scattering of showers are possible. And that's how your weather's shaping up.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world. If
you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Hello again. It's 8:22 and this is Breakfast on GB News.
We're having a bit of fun this morning, aren't
we? We are, because I don't know what's going on, basically. And when I turn to Stephen to see if he knows what's going on, sometimes he doesn't either.
I don't know, but then it's part of the fun, isn't it? The good news is we are live, of course, on your TV if you're watching us on your TV, and of course on your radio if you tuned in on DAB Plus this morning, so you don't have to miss a trick. Now, the Housing Secretary, Michael Gove, promises to expose and pursue companies responsible for safety problems caused by cladding.
Under government plans, flat owners will no longer have to pay for dangerous cladding to be removed from low-level buildings. Well, our North West of England reporter Bradley Harris is in Manchester. Tell us more, Bradley. Oh, he doesn't know where he is.
No, he's not got his earpiece in, apparently. Come on, Bradley.
Yeah. Get your act together.
I'll tell you what we'll do.
Yeah.
We will talk to Bradley in a minute once he's got all plugged in.
Oh, I love it when you're decisive.
I am. Oh, I can be.
It helps if somebody
I
is.
can be. In the meantime, let's talk to Doogie Beattie, because you may remember this story from back in 2014, but it was about a gay rights activist in Northern Ireland claimed he'd been discriminated against when a bakery wouldn't make a cake for him. It was a Christian bakery, wouldn't put support gay marriage on the cake. So it all went to court, it's gone appealed and all the rest of it. Doogie's been looking at this because it's now gone to the European Court of Human Rights, hasn't it, Doogie?
Well, it did, and they found that there was no case to answer. And of course, you are correct, it all did start back in 2014 when Gareth Lee walked into Asher's Bakery in Royal Avenue in Belfast and asked for a cake with a slogan put on it supporting gay marriage. Now, the owners of that bakery are Christians, and they said, look, we're not putting this on the cake, we don't agree with it, but anyway, we don't want to get into any sort of political campaign. Lots of retailers don't want to get into the politics of an awful lot, so they sent him on his way. He had his cake made elsewhere, and you'd have thought that was the end of the story. The problem now comes, and this is getting really down to the nuts and bolts of it, I suppose, is that he went to the Equality Commission in Northern Ireland, and that was a commission that was set up by Mo Molan to sort of like a Lord of the Rings, one ring controls all. All the equality commissions were brought into this super commission, and they were to look after lots of the rights inside Northern Ireland. But they decided to back Gareth on a case and to take Asher's Bakery to court. Now, you can only but imagine the stress that would have caused to not only financially but mental anguish as well. And I spoke to Simon Calvert of the Christian Institution, and this is what he had to say on it.
I think anyone can imagine what it's like to be on the receiving end of litigation, and that's a stressful thing. To be on the receiving end of litigation where you're accused of discriminating against someone, that's pretty horrible. And of course, initially in the county court and the Court of Appeal, the family lost. And the court said that they weren't discriminatory, and they knew they weren't. They knew they hadn't done anything wrong. And so it wasn't until they got to the UK Supreme Court that they were finally vindicated. I think that we were all disappointed that lawyers for the other side tried to resurrect it by taking the case to Strasbourg. But, it was the right outcome. I mean, the ruling from Strasbourg I mean, in the end, it wasn't even close. They've thrown out Mr. Lee's case at the first hurdle. They've ruled it wasn't admissible. They've said it was doubtful whether his human rights were engaged at all. And in any event, he'd never made any of these arguments at any of the 3 previous stages of the case. So it was a pretty comprehensive, slap down for the appeal. But the family are just really very relieved that it's all over. So when the family first approached us, when the Equality Commission first intimated to them that they might sue them over this, we said that we would not only help them with the legal action and help them with the media and all of that, but that we would cover their legal costs. Christian Institute supporters donate generously to us to help exactly in cases like this. So by the time it was all done and dusted in the domestic courts, it had cost between both sides over £500,000. So we covered the Ashes costs, and the taxpayer through the Equality Commission for Northern Ireland covered Mr. Lee's costs.
Well, and indeed, the Equality Commission of Northern Ireland did spend £250,000, quite a breathtaking amount of money, on a case that they couldn't win. And in fact, it was good that Ashers did win this case, because in winning it, they actually protected the rights of the minorities inside Northern Ireland, inside the UK, to be honest, because a legal precedent is a very dangerous thing to set. So, if say the tables were turned and you were a same-sex couple that owned a bakery, nobody could walk in and ask you to do something that you didn't want to do. A T-shirt manufacturer doesn't have to print logos on a T-shirt that it doesn't want to do. And that starts to go into the very minutiae of what business is about and competition laws. So it was a case that was never going to be won. And that's why the Equality Commission has to come forward. We did ask them for comment. They sent us an email, and the email just told us how much they had spent on the case. That no explanation as to why they backed it. And the Equality Commission is an arm's length body. It is answerable to the Executive Committee that sits in Stormont behind me. It gets its funding. It is public funding, public money, and they have to be answerable for it. Now, I have tried on many different occasions, as I'm sure lots of reporters have, to get answers out of many politicians of where they have spent money. And increasingly it is harder and harder to get answers out of them. So I will be asking those questions to the Equality Commission and to the Executive on Monday to find out just exactly what the thinking was.
OK, Doogie, thank you.
Be interesting to know what their thinking was. It's a very expensive cake, that's for sure, but principles are expensive as well.
Yeah, they are. Now let's turn our attention back to that cladding issue. Let's take you straight up to Manchester and our northwest of England correspondent Bradley Harris. Look, so the government looks like it's going to make some moves to at least get the cladding changed and not make people pay for it, Bradley. I mean, that must be an absolute sigh of relief for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a huge sigh of relief for many people across the UK who are living in these low-height buildings between 11 to 18.5 metres. Hopefully, if the government announce these plans next week, it means that these people who live in buildings with unsafe cladding in lower height buildings won't have to fork out the money. They won't have to actually go out, get a loan to pay for the cost to remove it, which is great news for people, providing that the government comes out and provides this plan. Who's going to front the cost, though? The government say it's down to developers to provide £4 billion worth of the cost to help residents and leaseholders with the damage that's been done. Whether developers go ahead and do that, that's another question. They're saying it's a voluntary contribution, so there's questions around that. Also, how long it takes for that money to actually come and be used to help reduce the damage that's been done to these flats. And also, who's going to pay for the bills in that time? You know, is it down to the leaseholders? Is there going to be a reimbursement for the past few years as they've been paying for fire marshals, etc.? Lots of questions. I'm here with a resident. I've been saying all morning on GBNews that we'll be meeting people who are in the centre of all of this. Darren Matthews, we're in your flat. Thanks for really welcoming us into your home to discuss this. Tell me then, what has, first of all, the past few years been like for you? You had no idea that this was going to happen, did you?
We had no idea post-Grenfell until last year. And we thought we were safe, we thought we were fine in a low-level building. It transpires from October 2019 to February last year. That was when we found out that we had the issues, when we had waking watch imposed on us. We were told that we were at risk. We had to have our decking replaced because it was combustible. And then in May we found out that there were other elements of concern where we were given an additional bill. So in the last 12 months it's not been very pleasant, to say the least. We're hopeful from the Minister's announcements, from what may transpire in his statement, that he's now offering us this support, but unfortunately it will only include the cladding element. It won't include other things that are more sinister within the fabric of the building that aren't covered under the funding elements at the moment.
So talking of these proposals from the government, we're expecting them next week. It means that, fingers crossed, you might have to not front the bill to repair these costs, but cladding is only part of the problem, isn't it?
Cladding is only one element of it. We have to consider things that are involved in the fabric of the building, such as fire breaks, such as compartmentalising in case of fire. These are things that may have not been completed to the correct specifications. The actual foam and things in the wood within the building, whether that's been treated correctly to prevent fire, they're all things that we need to consider and that we won't know till the fabric of the building is removed, till the skin is removed, and then they look deeper, they delve. That is the thing that is going to be more costly than replacing the actual cladding.
Are you confident that, should these plans come through next week, that developers will actually cough up the cash to try and help repair these damages?
I'm extremely grateful that Mr Gove has inspected our situation and is able to support us, but I don't honestly think, in my opinion, developers will make a voluntary contribution. I think the only way that they will make a contribution and have any responsibility is if it's under legal duress, if it's enshrined in law, if it's there in black and white. This is your responsibility, these are consequences. If you don't do it, we'll come after you. They're not going to make a voluntary contribution. They've made profit from our building and other previous buildings that are in the same situation as us, and now they're moving on to the next phase of their projects, the next buildings, the next properties. We're historic to them.
And looking towards the future, you've had trouble trying to sell this place. I mean, what's next? Do you want to try and find somewhere new? Do you want to try and make it work here? What are your plans? What are your thoughts?
I've lived here for 16 years. I've really enjoyed living here. My ideal would be for the building to be safe, for me to continue living here. Hopefully, in time, I will be able to move on. We need the building work to be done. We need the building to be safe. We need to put this behind us. It will again take time.
Brilliant. Well, Darren Matthews, really good to chat to you and get your thoughts on this. As I say, a big conversation around who's going to pay for these costs. Lots of discussion. Hopefully, we'll have some answers next week.
Bradley, thank you. It's such a crucial issue. It's devastated lives, hasn't it? I mean, obviously, you know...
Obviously, the original
original
fire, yes.
But
it's everything since. And there are thousands of people affected.
Oh, yeah.
And like we were saying earlier, it's not just about removal of cladding, it's what you replace it with and what that does to the value of the flat that you either own or rent in the... I mean, it's a massive, massive problem, but it does have to be addressed fast.
It does. It does. Look, I just want to mention a quick message from Wendy Redmond. Morning, Wendy. She's in Preston. I know Preston very well. She likes how we do the weather.
Well, that's you.
Today.
You did that.
But she said it doesn't show Manchester and Preston and Cumbria properly on the map.
Well, we'll fix that.
It's a Met Office map, so we can't just tweak it.
I think they choose different places to highlight every day, don't you? Yes.
I don't know. But we should definitely We should definitely get Preston on there, Wendy. I'm with you all the way. We've got the Showbiz heading away in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
And welcome back. It's 8:37.
It is, indeed. Let's turn our attention to the world of showbiz. We like a bit of
Congratulating
showbiz.
myself because I can tell the time now. So I put such a big smile on there as though that was a real triumph telling the time. It is, in fact, 8:37 still.
It is a triumph.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's talk showbiz with Stephanie Tachi. Good morning.
Hello.
You know, it's always a joy to see you. Brighten up my day.
Thank you. You
And I've
guys
only met you
brighten up my
twice.
day as well.
Can we talk? I tell you what's not bringing a lot of sunshine. The Golden Globes.
I
this
know,
year.
it's not so golden this year. Usually in the world of showbiz, we're all suffering from January blues. There's hardly any parties, events, but the Golden Globes usually ushers in all the other awards, and it sets the precedents for the Oscars, the BAFTAs, and it's usually known as the edgy sister of the Oscars. But that's not what's going to happen tonight. It's stripped back. It's going to be a private affair. No celebrities, no red carpet.
How do you do the Golden Globes with no celebrities and no red carpet? That's what it's all about.
That's what people want to see. So they're only going to be announcing the winners and the nominations on their website and via their social media. So why is this happening? So the Golden Globes are organised by the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, and over the last year, they've been getting a bad rep for the lack of diversity that's on their members, their membership. There was hardly any women, hardly any ethnic minorities. And also there was a big expose that came out in the LA Times that was saying that a lot of their members were being bribed by the Hollywood studios, which were affecting who was winning, and they were basically giving out that they were picking the studios that they liked the best. So NBC, who was the broadcaster for them for many years, have decided not to broadcast them this year. And a lot of celebrities have also been speaking against the HFPA, including Tom Cruise, who's returned his 3 Golden Globes.
No.
Scarlett Johansson says she refuses to work with them until they've actually reformed. And they've said, well, it's going to take a while for us to make the changes we need to. So I think this is a big reason why this year is going to be a big miss for them, and it is a shame.
But is it the death knell in a way? Because if you don't come back fighting and say, right, we're going to change everything now, we're going to do it and hold it and make it all work, then who's going to want to come back to the Golden Globes?
Well, that's the thing, because it's almost like guilty by association. You know how celebrities are. They won't want to be associated with something that's not seen as inclusive or fair, kind of thing.
Once it dies, it'll stay dead.
It'll be hard.
We'll just concentrate on other awards, won't they?
The only thing is, it's the 79th year, and next year will be its 80th year. So I'm hoping within the next year they'll be able to rectify what's happened. But it's a shame because we have a lot of good names who are up for nominations, including Olivia Colman, Benedict Cumberbatch, Will Smith. So they've got the names, but their stars are not going to be there.
Why couldn't they address this sooner? They could have done something quickly.
I think it's just been things after things. I think obviously the pandemic hasn't helped as well. So it's just a full-on not affair for them this year.
Damp squib. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
look, there's Jennifer Aniston from a previous year. I love Jennifer Aniston. Is that wrong?
No, she's fab. She's our friend.
Yeah, she does feel like a friend, doesn't she? I tell you, something you said about the Golden Globes being 80 next year. One thing that makes me feel 80 is when I tune into EastEnders.
Oi.
I do. Honestly, it's so depressing.
Yeah, I mean, is it such a big deal that Danny Dyer's leaving?
Yeah, I think it is, because, like, we've had many big stars leave the show over the past few years. Like, it's still TBC whether Adam Mudiat, who plays Ian's going to come back. We've had Macy Williams go. All the big names that were kind of like the lifeblood of the new EastEnders are leaving, and Danny Dyer's like kind of one of the last big names to go.
Why is he leaving, as he said?
Well, he wants to do something new. He's been on the show for 9 years, and he was brought in to save the show, and which I think he's done successfully, but there's only so far you can go with a character. And the thing with EastEnders, most of them are signed onto contracts, so they can't do work elsewhere. And also, he's been poached by Sky, who've offered him like a 6-figure salary.
So why wouldn't
to star in a drama? So he's not going to say no. But back in 29, EastEnders upped his pay almost to £1 million. So obviously, yeah, they did. So obviously, the money is talking. The money is talking for Danny Dyer, and he wants to go somewhere fresh. But bosses have said that they're not going to let him go without a bang. So I'm sure there's going to be a good few storylines.
You think kill him off in some incredibly dramatic way?
I think they're going to have
to. We make £1 million by being behind a bar.
OK.
Do you want an orange juice, darling?
Yes, please.
Oh, thank you. Lovely, that. Well, where to make
I know.
money.
Yeah. But I mean, it is very restrictive being in a soap opera, I suppose, and it's obvious that any decent actor is probably want to go and spread their wings. And do other things.
And he didn't start off as a soap star. You know, he's starred in so many other films. Like Danny Dyer was already a household name before EastEnders. So I think he's probably...
Will EastEnders last, or is this the beginning of the end?
I hate to say it, but I think it is
it's
the
been going
beginning
a long
and,
time.
And the viewers have been going down. They've been dwindling and dwindling, and no matter... Like, I was disappointed with the Christmas storyline. I was expecting it to be quite explosive, and I was like... No, there wasn't much to it. So, but where would we be without EastEnders? It's almost like a British heritage soap.
We'd get by.
We've got Corrie and Emmerdale, haven't we?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, they keep going.
They'll have to do.
It's astonishing how we cling on to our... Have you ever listened to The Archers?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's been going forever.
That has been going forever.
So maybe it's not a day for EastEnders. Maybe
well, they do wane, don't they?
Yeah.
They wax and wane, these, and you need in a new bunch of script writers. And it's always made stars as well.
Yes, it has.
All of the soap operas make stars, so maybe we've just got to wait a while.
And I feel like, as well, EastEnders appeals to a new generation, because I was watching it from when Grant was there, Phil was there, and now you've got all these new characters which are appealing to a new audience. So maybe it's just that the older audience, it's lost its flavour with EastEnders.
I know we're talking show business, and it doesn't seem right to call it that, but Sinead O'Connor, of course, who's a wonderful singer and beloved to many people, it's so terribly sad about her son dying.
Heartbreaking. On Thursday, she put out a tweet begging for her son to, come back.
Because he went missing.
He went missing. He was apparently under suicide watch in a hospital in South Dublin, and unfortunately and sadly he was discovered that he had died by suicide, and she put it out on a tweet saying that he was like the light of her life, the lamp of her soul. She's been quite vocal over the past year that he had been struggling with mental health issues, and Sinead O'Connor herself has always been quite vocal about her own mental health issues. So I think for her to see that with her son must have been a heartbreaking process.
Yes, she said, my beautiful son, the very light of my life, I can't read it, decided to end his earthly struggle today and is now with God. That is just so terribly upsetting.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, a lot of people will feel a lot of empathy, because there are a lot of people have had serious mental health issues, have lost children in similar ways, and in a way, the fact that she's open about it is good.
It is, and I think,
but good.
And this is how we help combat mental health, by removing the stigmas of it,
I'm worried about you, man.
Yeah, well, but I do think that's why it's important. I mean, I really applaud her for being open about it, because we, as a nation, I think, have a massive problem with mental health issues.
especially with young boys as well, and young male teens. And she said in the tweet, please don't anyone follow his example.
Right.
And, you know, there's always help out there, and, you know, all we can do is just hope Sinead gets through the other side of it. And it's a shame, because this was supposed to be the year she comes out with a new album. She was going to start touring again, so I'm sure
she'll be in terrible pain.
Yeah, that'll be put on hold for a while.
Yeah. I was just digging out the Samaritans, because if you ever want to talk to anyone and you're feeling that bad about life, then you can talk to the Samaritans. It's free of charge, and they will talk to you with no judgment or anything at all. They'll just listen to you. It's 116 123.
And I've spoken to people who have done exactly that. They've rung the Samaritans when they've been in despair and say they are amazing. They are amazing and so helpful. But just to be able to talk to somebody who is very, well trained in being able to just talk with you, it's terribly, terribly important. You hear that.
All you need is a listening ear sometimes.
Sometimes it does make a huge difference. Stephanie, good to see you this morning.
Thank you, guys.
Now, should we have a look at the newspapers for you this morning?
Yes, indeed.
End mass jabs and treat COVID like we do the flu is the top line for The Observer. The comments by the former chairman of the UK's vaccine task force called for a major rethink of the UK's COVID strategy and a return to what he called a new normal.
And The Times says free lateral flow tests could face the axe under a strategy of living with COVID. Under proposals drawn up by the government, the new system could mean that free tests would only be provided to high-risk bodies such as care homes, hospitals and schools.
The Foreign Secretary, Liz Truss, has warned she will trigger Article 16 of the Brexit agreement if the EU won't bend. That's in the Sunday Telegraph this morning. The new Brexit negotiator has insisted Britain will overhaul the rules surrounding Northern Ireland unilaterally if they can't reach a negotiated solution.
A Sunday Express exclusive has Priti Patel warning the House of Lords not to block her crime bill. She says it's time for tougher justice.
For The Independent, it says the oil industry were invited by the government to help write new rules on drilling. This, of course, coming just not very long at all since COP26 in Glasgow.
Be a true Tory, Boris, or you're finished. Those are the words of the ex-Brexit Minister Lord Frost in the Mail, on the front page of the Mail this morning. Can't find it at the moment. We'll find it for you anyway. It's a pretty robust front page, as they say.
It is robust, isn't it?
Be a toot, Troy. Speaking for the first time since his bombshell resignation, ex-Brexit Minister Lord Frost warns the PM, be a true Tory, Boris, or you're finished.
It's tough stuff. As we just seen from Stephanie, Danny Dyer has quit EastEnders. It's left the BBC show in crisis, according to the Sunday Mirror.
The Sun on Sunday says England footballer Jack Grealish spent the night with a Towie star at a hideaway villa.
And the Daily Star Sunday has the most important story of the day. Yuri Geller is about to cause a historical earthquake by finding the sacred Ark of the Covenant. And he's going to dig it up soon.
Yes. With a spoon, as we were saying.
With a spoon. Just don't know where he is. Where he's going to do it, who knows? Let's go through the papers this morning. Once again with Ella Whelan, columnist and podcaster at Spiked Online, and Nabila Ramdani, the journalist and broadcaster. Good to see you both this morning. Ella, let's talk universities, should we? And getting back to face-to-face teaching, which university students are desperate to do.
Yes, university students are desperate to do, but universities
are not.
Potentially not so much. And this is Inside the Times, a kind of reiteration from Nadeem Zahawi about the fact that there are currently no specific measures in place that the government has put in to force universities to go online, and yet, and he's kind of being very stern about the need to go face-to-face. And yet, we have Durham, for example, issuing notice to students that they're going to be online for the first few weeks of this year. We've got 15 universities, Leeds, SOAS, Essex, City Uni, UCL, Dundee, Brunel and Edinburgh, all writing to students and saying that actually for a prolonged period of time there's going to be this thing called blended learning, which is a little bit of online, a little bit of in person.
Should get some of their money back.
Well, for students, I don't often, I have a particular view on university fees. I think that university education should be free. But if you are currently paying £9,500 for a university education, and you're sitting at home doing it on Zoom, you think lots of students are upset about that. But more importantly, part of a university education is about pushing yourself beyond boundaries intellectually and, politically and socially. And you just can't do that from your bedroom dorm.
It's
from
just
your,
not fair, and
sitting room.
it's not what you expect from a university life.
No, and I think I'm glad that Zahawi is being tough on them, but I think we have to.
Why are they
open
being
up
so reluctant to go face to face?
I think that it's a mixture of a kind of safetyism, a safety-first approach that has been prevalent throughout universities for quite a long time. You have much more emphasis on not the thing that university is meant to be about, which is educating young people and opening minds, but more about, it's a safety-first approach, whether it comes to mental health, whether it comes to things like this, taking care of students in relation to the virus. And so there's a reluctance to defend what a university is supposed to be, which is an open place for education where people get stuck in on the ground face to face. I think that has something to do with it. Possibly also, if you were going to be cynical, I think that it's very easy for lots of universities to go online and save a lot of money, whether that be save on fees for tutors and also just save on not having to deal with the scrum of students that happens on a campus.
But most of those students will be vaccinated now as well, won't they?
Or they'll have had it. We know that in particular, last year there were lots of we saw coronavirus kind of rip through loads of university students because they were still going out and partying. And actually, because the fact that the virus doesn't hit most young people so badly, it was sort of all right. And there was a level of, to use that very controversial term now, herd immunity among university students. I think that really university administrations and also staff have to come out now and defend the fact that university has to be a face-to-face thing, much like schools. You were just talking about masks.
Well, if we're a country where our secondary schools are back and being taught in class, I can't understand why university students aren't.
No.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And if you're a student, I mean, my niece just started university this year, but she's devastated if she can't get back to face-to-face. Nabila, Mail on Sunday, looking at Lord Frost. Be a true Tory, Boris. I mean, it's quite a scathing remark, isn't it?
Yes, it's a very blunt message on the Mail on Sunday front page, no doubt about it. This is actually an excellent and exclusive interview with the recently departed Brexit Minister, Lord Frost. It's the first since his sensational resignation, and it's projected as a damning interview on Boris Johnson's government. Effectively, Lord Frost says that Mr Johnson must reset his government along traditional Conservative lines if he wants to win the next general election. He goes on to say that the Conservative must revitalise the country with free markets, free debate and low taxes, and to set the direction of travel to appeal to ordinary voters. Now, Lord Frost might not be too happy with how Brexit is going, but his main frustrations are with COVID-19 restrictions, tax rises and green policies. And in my view, this is all reasonable criticism, really, by Lord Frost, rather than the kind of devastating attack, even though, I have to say, this might come as an uncomfortable reading for Mr Johnson and his ministers, who might actually find that they agree with him because...
I can't help but look at that and you think, low tax Tory government. I mean, that is the traditional Tory way. We'd all love lower taxes, but we
are in extraordinary times.
But the thing is, a global health pandemic doesn't suit traditional conservatism. It, by definition, leads to more spending, for example, and, of course, restriction on personal freedom, which doesn't fit in with traditional conservatism at all.
No, but a good government has to adapt to the times, doesn't it? I mean, when that government was voted in, they had no idea a pandemic was coming. They thought their big problem was Brexit.
Precisely, and that's why I think this is more about the government as the art of the possible rather than ideology per se.
Yeah.
I think Boris Johnson has to remember, or at least he's forgotten, what he was voted in on the basis of. It was a huge boon from the promises of Brexit, which was about democratic change in the country. It was about saying, you had all this kind of bluster about putting more power into the hands of people in the Red Wall. And then you see what's happened over the course of the decisions that the government have taken throughout the pandemic. Lots of them necessary and right, and I agreed with throughout the emergency phases. But the undemocratic nature of bringing in legislation without government scrutiny, without parliamentary scrutiny, and then bringing in further restrictions without any kind of consultation with the public when we're out of the emergency process, you start to realise that for all his talk about Brexit, Boris Johnson doesn't really understand democracy. He doesn't really have that kind of liberty bone that so many Conservatives said was central to his body. And so I think it's quite right that people like Lord Frost are coming out now and perhaps realising the mistake that they've made in promoting Boris Johnson as this big Brexit, big kind of democracy-loving.
But he was needed for Brexit, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, we know that he infamously wrote those 2 articles, and he's always someone who plays his chances. But at least there was something in 2019 that said maybe we'll have a discussion in this country about democracy, about the future of it, Brexit, House of Lords, monarchy, whatever. That's been scuppered by the pandemic, but it's also been scuppered by the fact that it's revealed that the Tories are not wanting to have some kind of populist change in this country where red wall voters will have a bigger say. That was all a little bit of nonsense, I think.
I think it's going to be an interesting 12 months in politics. Look, we've got to leave it there, you two. It's been really good to see you this morning.
Thank you.
Now, were you outraged by the Colston statue verdict, or was it fair? We're going to be talking with the MP Philip Davis a little bit later on. First, here's your weather.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Well, let's have a look at the weather for you. And the UK is looking dry across southeast England, but elsewhere a mix of sunshine and showers. So let's have the details for you. And thicker cloud and rain will move into West Cornwall by midday. Elsewhere, remaining bright with sunshine and showers. Not as windy as yesterday, with highs around 9. A dry, bright and fresh morning across southeast England. Light winds, but with plenty of winter sunshine. Chilly with highs of 7. The cloudiest skies across Wales this morning will be in the west, with some showers here. Elsewhere, brighter with sunny spells. Bit of a chilly start, but then a bright morning across much of the Midlands, with plenty of sunny spells, but perhaps just the odd shower. It's a chilly day again, highs of 6 Celsius. Now, moving on to northwest England, it's going to be cloudy and damp. Northeast England will be drier and brighter with sunny spells, perhaps a few light showers. Temperatures around 5 Celsius by lunchtime. A cold, frosty but sunny morning across northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, often cloudy with showers, those showers falling as snow over the higher ground. Edinburgh largely cloudy with highs of 5. Fairly cloudy skies expected across Northern Ireland as well, with a scattering of showers. Some of those showers could be heavy at times. Top temperatures 7 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. For the rest of Sunday, rain will edge into the far west. Elsewhere, a scattering of showers are possible. And that's how your weather's shaping up.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Good morning to you. It's 9 o'clock. It's Sunday, the 9th of January, and this is Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon.
And me, Anne Diamond. Hi.
We're on your TV, your phone, and your radio now.
And you can find us on DAB+, so you've got absolutely no excuse not to take us with you wherever you go. Here's what we've got for you.
A group of MPs have written to the Attorney-General, Suella Braverman, calling for the Colston statue case to be referred to the Court of Appeal. This week, a jury cleared 4 protesters in Bristol of criminal damage after the monument was toppled. We'll speak to one of those signatories, the MP Philip Davis, in just a few minutes.
Housing Secretary Michael Gove is set to announce new measures aimed at forcing developers to pay for cladding removal from buildings. It's part of plans to ease what he calls the unfair burden some leaseholders faced after the Grenfell fire. Our reporter Bradley Harris is in Manchester for us this morning. We'll join him too.
And is there light at the end of the COVID tunnel? Well, the Sunday Times says free lateral flow tests could be facing the axe as the PM considers how we learn to live with COVID-19.
And don't forget, what you have to say is key to this new show. Whether you're listening on radio at the moment or you've been watching us on TV, get in touch about the stories that we're discussing today, or anything actually that you find interesting that we ought to know about. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet @gbnews. And in fact, you've been doing just that, so thank you.
Yeah, loads of you getting into... And, you know, it seemed a bit daft when we said the other day, it was you, it's your idea, so sunrises, get pictures of sunrises.
Oh, that's right, because my brother-in-law goes out jogging every morning, and takes the most fantastic shots of sunrise.
And so many of you have got in touch with pictures. And do you know what's important, I think, is that it's showing us where you are. We want to know where you are. We want to know who you are. So the more you get in touch, the better. This is a beautiful picture from Kirsty Scott. Sutton-on-Sea. Look at that, absolutely beautiful, beachy, lovely beachy shot. If you're on the radio,
it's a beach.
But it's a beach with a sunrise, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
let me tell you.
I must say the quality of photographs is so good nowadays. I suppose because of the quality of cameras on our phones.
Yeah.
They take sensational photographs. This one is of a beach near Blackpool, taken by Scott Rowell. Hi, Scott. And we think that's a fantastic... I've never seen colours like that, but it's just light blues and pinks, and looks as though it's a painting rather than a photograph.
Absolutely gorgeous.
It does, doesn't it?
Bob Jackson. Bob. Andalusia in Spain. Stop showing off, Bob.
Oh, no, show off more. We want some more pictures from all over the world, please.
That's beautiful, absolutely lovely.
Yeah. And that one's from the Isle of Wight by Adam Gatesy, and that's just beautiful. The sun just peeping over the horizon, looking absolutely fabulous.
This is my absolute favourite, Ipswich Quay, the pinks and... what we
Can't get over it.
Fuchsia.
It's absolutely good. Fuchsia, very good word.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
like
you.
that.
This is from Delia. Honestly, it's a cracking shot. Is that beautiful?
And then the last one, I think, is this picture of Portobello Beach in Edinburgh. Again, the sun just coming over the horizon, over the sea, looking and lighting up the windows of that block of flats. Just looks gorgeous.
Yes. That's a very good point. 40, it's talking about turning 40.
Which is the Duchess of Cambridge is 40 today.
The Duchess of Cambridge is 40 today. She's released an official picture. Let's have a look at it. No,
hang on.
It's the one of me. It's the one of me. It was a joke. My team aren't getting it, but never mind. As if she's released some very glamorous pictures. This is mine for when I was 40.
Not so glamorous.
No,
and really very weird.
But do you know what? It was a whole lot of fun. And I like doing... It's for birthdays and things. I like family stuff. And it's... again, for those of you on the radio...
To explain it, this is a group of people who look very weird because they're all wearing Doctor Who masks.
Yes.
And you are apparently Tom Baker.
I'm Tom Baker on the right. My brother is next to me is Colin Baker. And I think it might be my dad in the middle.
But who's the one on the left? I don't recognise the Doctor.
Oh, it's Rory. It's Amy Pond's husband.
Right.
And that's my sister-in-law, Kay Dixon.
You have to know your Doctor Who to understand that photograph at all.
You do. I mean, it's completely crackers, but then Dixons are completely crackers.
But then it brings back happy memories of your 40th.
Do you know what it does? And
that.
I didn't mind turning 40, and I'm not going to mind turning 50.
You think so now? You wait. It'll happen.
I'm not. I've got a few. Well, I've got two years to go.
Yeah, and as well as your lovely... Only two. Only two.
No, I know.
As well as your lovely pictures, thank you so much. And if you've got any other pictures of, now the sun is up, and to show where you are, we'd love to see them. And we've got some lovely views as well, quite a few coming in on Djokovic. Great to see him taking this stand against tyranny, says Mark. That's about the vaccine, of course.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I really like, because I love it when you comment about some of us and knowing our stuff. Aidan McGee really knows his stuff, says Phil. Yes, he does.
Yes, he does.
He certainly does.
Yeah.
I know nothing about sport, so I'm very glad he's here, let me tell you. Barbara says, this is a Colston statue issue, which we could talk about in a minute. It says, if someone does the crime, they should do the time, from Barbara, which is a fair point, but of course...
Yeah, but they haven't done a crime. They were charged with possibly a crime, and they were found not guilty, so there is no crime there, officially. Afraid not.
Yeah. Michael says, masks in school. Michael says, if teachers want to see children's faces, then why not ask them to wear a transparent mask?
I tried a transparent mask during the last pandemic. Well, it just completely clouds up.
Did it?
Because there was a big worry, a big concern that deaf people, obviously, would have real trouble because they would never be able to read the lips of anyone if they were behind a mask. And so I thought, well, that's a very good thing. So I went online and I ordered a transparent mask, and it just completely clouds up.
I saw one advertised on Instagram only yesterday, actually, which was up down here, and it was transparent, but it was meant to stop your glasses, because obviously it's a nightmare
clouding
going
up.
in the shop. I can't see a thing. But my only concern was I'd look like an absolute numpty in it.
We all look a bit numpty-ish in masks, though, don't
But if everyone's wearing a mask and you're walking about with this thing...
There are some nice masks, though. Have you seen the one with the smiley faces?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and if you're feeling miserable, you turn it upside down.
Yeah, oh, well, there you go. That's something to do. If you've got one of those plastic masks, let me know how you get on with it. gbviews@gbnews.uk. Do you feel a bit embarrassed? That's my only concern.
I had a black one with a little diamond on its side.
Oh, you would?
Yeah.
Have you told them about your tattoo?
No, well, yeah, we
got our first tattoos together.
We did. I had a little diamond there. Because I thought that was quite a good place, because you don't usually uncover that little tiny part of, unless you want to. But it's just a little diamond. But what did you have?
I had "Love is the beauty of the soul" written on my ankle.
And it really hurt.
Well,
you said it did, because normally it's on a fleshy part of the body, but you had it done on your ankle.
It was a bit sore.
Yeah,
but
which is much more sore if it's on a bony bit.
Since then, I've had a whole load more done.
Yeah, he keeps writing poetry and having it tattooed on you.
Oh, dear. Anyway, look, let's move on to our main news today, and we better had. And a group of MPs have written to the Attorney-General, Suella Braverman, calling for the Colston statue case to be referred to the Court of Appeal.
Yes, MPs are questioning Wednesday's court decision to clear 4 people of tearing down that statue of slave trader Edward Colston during the Black Lives Matter protest in Bristol nearly 2 years ago.
Now, the verdict has ignited culture wars, with some questioning if it was based on political feeling rather than facts.
And yesterday, one of the 4 cleared of charges argued that jury trials and freedom of speech are the cornerstones of our society. In a moment, we're going to speak to one signatory, Philip Davis. But in the meantime, let's tell you what's going on today.
Yeah, in the rest of the news, Boris Johnson is being warned not to scale back free lateral flow tests following reports they could be limited to high-risk settings. Scotland's First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, and the Labour Party say it would be utterly wrong-headed to do so. Meanwhile, the UK has reached a total COVID-related death toll of more than 150,000 since the pandemic began.
The Foreign Secretary says she's prepared to unilaterally override parts of the post-Brexit agreement on Northern Ireland if negotiations fail. Writing in the Sunday Telegraph, Liz Truss warns that she's willing to trigger Article 16, which would suspend parts of the treaty designed to prevent a hard border with the Republic. She's actually meeting her EU counterpart this week for face-to-face talks.
And as we're talking about 40th birthdays, the Duchess of Cambridge has released 3 new portraits to mark her 40th today. I mean, they're beautiful pictures. They should be, though. They've been taken by fashion photographer Paolo Roversi. It's a series of Alexander McQueen dresses with flowing hair. That one is quite something.
It really is, isn't it? That's like a painting.
It is. She's wearing, in 2 of the pictures, earrings that once belonged to Diana, and in one of the pictures, earrings that do belong to the Queen.
Yeah.
So, on that Colston statue issue, and a number of MPs, Tory MPs, we should say, who've written asking for common sense to prevail in this, for it all to sort of go to the Court of Appeal. One of those people is Philip Davies, who joins us now. Good to see you. What do you hope to achieve by this going to the Court of Appeal, should that happen?
Well, quite clearly this was a perverse ruling, and we need to have some clarity in the law. I don't think anybody could look at the evidence and think that this was a ruling that could be justified. This was hooliganism. It was perfectly clear, whatever the motivation of people.
Forgive me for jumping in.
Hooliganism.
Forgive me for jumping in right at the beginning, Mr. Davies, but it's not a ruling, is it? It's a jury reaching a verdict, and they're entitled to reach whatever verdict they think, regardless of the evidence.
Well, I don't think anybody disagrees with that, but it was a perverse verdict. And even the defence solicitor in there, summing up, asked the jury to be on the right side of history, to tell them that the world was watching their verdict. He wasn't arguing, it seemed to me from that, the case on the law. He was trying to urge them to make a political decision. And surely we can't have a situation where we say to people, it's fine to take the law into your own hands. If you don't like the situation, just take the law into your own hands, and we can have a situation where a court will acquit you. That's intolerable for a country that believes in the rule of law. And quite clearly, in this case, it seems to me the law was broken. And why the jury decided on their verdict, obviously, we will never know. But it doesn't seem to have been anything to do with the law.
You've written to the Attorney General. What do you want her to actually do? What do you think she could do?
Well, the Attorney General can refer the case to the Court of Appeal to clarify the law in this situation, and I understand that's what she is going to do, and I very much welcome the Attorney General in doing that, because, of course, we can't have the publicity around this case to say to people around the country, well, by the way, if you don't like something, just go and cause some criminal damage, and there's a chance that the courts will acquit you and let you off. That's an intolerable situation. And so I think it's perfectly right for the Attorney General to refer the case to the Court of Appeal and for them to rule upon the law in this case. And I hope that will be able to clarify to the country at large that you can't just go around taking the law into your own hands and causing criminal damage just because you think your cause is a worthy one.
But clarifying the law isn't going to change the result of this case, is it?
No, it's not going to change the result of this case. Absolutely not. And I regret the fact that people have got away with causing criminal damage. That's a terrible shame. But I think this is an important issue that needs to be clarified. And as I say, we can't have people in the future thinking that they can go round causing criminal damage, taking the law into their own hands, acting as sort of vigilantes just because they don't like something. That is not the way we do things in a democratic country and where we believe in the rule of law. And I think it's important that the law in these matters is clarified.
I just got to say, I mean, and I know it might seem to you and to some people watching a daft point, but we've got to be careful on the legal side of this. We can't claim that, as you just did, that they got away with it because they were acquitted of it.
Well, they were acquitted, but that doesn't mean to say that it wasn't a perverse decision. And I think anybody who looks at the evidence, I mean, there was CCTV involved. Did these people commit criminal damage? It seems to me the clear answer to that is yes. What they were motivated by, that's a matter of debate. But as far as I can see, and I think as far as anybody really looking at it objectively can see, they got away with it, and they were acquitted. But I think most people will consider them to be very fortunate to have been acquitted.
A lot of people, though, watching, and maybe it's the view of most of the jurors, we don't know, will say, actually, though, morally, what they did was good, and morally, what the jury decided was probably the right thing. It was on the right side of history.
Well, that's a matter of debate. I mean, I tend not to agree with that. But you know, are we saying that if we sort of disagree politically with somebody, we've got the right to go and rip down their statue? That if in 100 years' time, I mean, you know, the things that we say and do today, in 100 years' time, some people will find offensive. We have no idea what it will be, because values will have changed. But I'm pretty sure that there'll be certain things that we're saying and doing today that people in 100 years' time or so will find offensive. Are we saying that that's fine then at that point to rip down any paintings of them or statues of them or anything like that just because we happen to disagree with what they said or did 100 years ago? That to me is not right. And so, you know, I don't think that is a suitable way to behave. And if people want statues to be removed, look, we live in a democracy. People stand for election. They can vote for people who agree to remove these statues if it means so much to them. That's how we go about changing this country, through elections, through voting, through democracy. You don't go about it by just deciding to take the law into your own hands and causing criminal damage and ripping things down. That's intolerable.
OK. Philip Davis.
We'll leave it there.
Yeah, it's really good to talk to you this morning. Thank you. And but I can almost hear what you're saying.
I know, I can.
And get in touch, GBViews at GBnews.
Jamie has. He says, I think in the long term, the world would be a better place without statues celebrating individuals whose great wealth was created from the death and suffering of others. Gillian says, Colston donated every penny in his will to charities in Bristol. That is why he has a statue in his honour. Although the Society of Merchant Venturers were engaged in slave ships, the other two societies he was involved with were not. So who really knows what proportion of his wealth was due to slavery? I don't know whether all of those facts are correct, but it is true that we were talking about this earlier, whether there is such a thing as dirty money, or maybe all money is dirty.
Yeah, I suspect it probably is. But with all of this, there's an element, and what Philip Davis is talking about almost is common sense. There is video of these people tearing down the statue, and they admit they tore down the statue, but they
were charged with causing criminal damage and they were found not guilty.
Not guilty. So what do? You can't overturn the rule of law.
And it's interesting him saying that in 100 years' time, what might we find offensive that we actually find part of everyday life today? I think of things like the money that was raised by Jimmy Savile for charities. There was a huge debate afterwards whether any of the charities that had accepted money from him wanted to touch it, considered it dirty money, or could it be used for good? Would you buy a Rolf Harris painting nowadays?
Well,
no. All of those
those
things.
Don't, do they?
But people still do buy Michael Jackson music and dance to it. And we all have our different concerns over these things, don't we?
Yeah, we do. Get in touch. Love to hear your views on that one. Meanwhile, let's moving on to if you live in a property that's been cladded and with cladding, which is now considered dangerous. A bit of light at the end of the tunnel, thankfully, because the Housing Secretary, Michael Gove, has promised to expose and pursue companies responsible for safety problems caused by cladding.
Under government plans, flat owners will no longer have to pay for dangerous cladding to be removed from low-level buildings. Our North West of England reporter Bradley Harris is in Manchester. Hello there, Bradley. What more do we know now?
Yeah, this is a really big turning point, hopefully, for the hundreds of leaseholders across the country who are living in buildings with dangerous cladding. Of course, cladding is actually only one part of a wider problem. The government are saying that actually for buildings that are between 11 to 18.5 metres, those lower height buildings, it means that actually leaseholders, as part of these proposals that we'll hear next week from the government, they are saying that leaseholders won't have to actually get a loan to pay to repair the damaged and flammable cladding in some of these properties. Already the government have proposed £5 billion for taller buildings, but there wasn't anything for anything less than 18.5 metres. So hopefully this is a big turning point. They're saying that it's up to developers to voluntarily try and fix this with the £4 billion. But of course, if they say, no, actually, we put up these buildings at a time when regulations were in force and we were following the law, then this money might have to come from the government's own pockets. Let's hear from a resident themselves, Giles Grover from Manchester Gladiators. I just want to speak to you because you live in one of these buildings. You can see the scaffolding up here. Just tell me, is this a turning point? Is this the start to the end of what's been a nightmare for you, really, isn't it?
It could. We're hopeful it could be the start of the end. I've got to caveat that a heck of a lot, really, based upon my experience of the last kind of 2.5, 3 years of government announcements, hoping it's the end. In February of last year, Robert Jenrick said he's ended our cladding scandal. He was then replaced a few months later. So we're confident Mr Gove has got a better grip on it, but are we at the end yet? We're not so sure.
And cladding itself is actually only one part of the problem. There's a range of other issues as well. Just talk us through some of those.
Yeah, it's where do you start, really, because cladding has always been the government's focus because of the tragic events at Grenfell in 2017. They focused on ACM cladding. There's a lot of different other types of cladding. There's also cladding systems where you've got issues with cavity barriers. We've then got balcony issues that have to be remediated, internal compartmentation. So the list can go on and on and on. Fire doors as well. We need better smoke alarms. So cladding is a start, but the problem is that, as many politicians have said, you can't make buildings half safe. So you can focus on cladding and say, OK, we'll pay, as we are doing for my building, paying for half of it. We've still paid about been asked to pay about £6,000 or £7,000, and we don't know when the project is going to end. So it's a good start, but we're not there yet. It's a simple point that I'll keep repeating.
Whenever I talk about this story with cladding, I just keep thinking, how is it taking so long? Of course, a lot of this, as we know, started with Grenfell 2017, 72 people killed there. And then we started to see many other tower blocks with similar problems. Why do you think it's taken this long?
It's taken this long because it started off as the ACM problem, which was on a few hundred buildings. But then the government, quite rightly, although it hasn't done this for 30 or 40 years, it's now focusing on the safety of the buildings and making sure they're actually safe. The builders actually constructed them according to the plans. The scale's got bigger and bigger and bigger. So you're looking at 3,000 buildings over 18 metres. And no one really knows between 11 metres and 18 metres. So there's about 30,000 buildings there that could be at risk. Then you've got buildings below 11 metres that are still being ignored, that are still having to remediate and have their balconies paid for or remediated, but they've got to pay for that themselves. So the problem is it's got bigger, but the government's just scared of getting a full grip of this crisis because the funding requirement is probably the scariest one. That's the biggest dilemma for them.
Well, hopefully the government will be listening to you. We are going to hopefully hear what the government are going to propose next week. I've set out some of those measures there a little bit earlier, but I just kind of want to ask you as well, Giles, about the housing market. It's impacting that. People don't want to buy a flat that's covered in this flammable cladding. Are you having problems trying to sell or even finding that other people don't want to rent these types of properties?
No one in my development, 329 flats, I'm not aware of anyone moving, being able to sell for the last 2 or 3 years. We did some analysis in Manchester in September to December 2020, and the flat sales have just fallen off a cliff. You can sell, but only if you take a massive discount to a cash buyer, because mortgages just aren't happening right now.
Wow, right. Well, good to get your thoughts on that. Thank you so much for joining us on GB News. That's Giles there, who's from Manchester Gladiators. Interesting to hear his thoughts on what is still a very big problem 4 years on.
Lee, thanks very much indeed.
And coming up after the weather, the Golden Globes kick off tomorrow, but it's a private event. Our entertainment reporter Stephanie Tecci reveals all, so do stay with us for more.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Well, let's have a look at the weather for you. And the UK is looking dry across southeast England, but elsewhere a mix of sunshine and showers. So let's have the details for you. And thicker cloud and rain will move into West Cornwall by midday. Elsewhere remaining bright with sunshine and showers. Not as windy as yesterday with highs around 9. A dry, bright and fresh morning across southeast England. Light winds, but with plenty of winter sunshine. Chilly with highs of 7. The cloudiest skies across Wales this morning will be in the west, with some showers here. Elsewhere, brighter with sunny spells. Bit of a chilly start, but then a bright morning across much of the Midlands, with plenty of sunny spells, but perhaps just the odd shower. It's a chilly day again, highs of 6 Celsius. Now moving on to northwest England, it's going to be cloudy and damp. Northeast England will be drier and brighter with sunny spells, perhaps a few light showers. Temperatures around 5 Celsius by lunchtime. A cold, frosty but sunny morning across northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, often cloudy with showers, those showers falling as snow over the higher ground. Edinburgh largely cloudy with highs of 5. Fairly cloudy skies expected across Northern Ireland as well, with a scattering of showers. Some of those showers could be heavy at times. Top temperatures 7 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. For the rest of Sunday, rain will edge into the far west. Elsewhere, a scattering of showers are possible. And that's how your weather's shaping up.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. 9:28. Now, many of you may well remember a story about a gay rights activist in Northern Ireland who claimed he'd been discriminated against when a bakery wouldn't make a cake for him. That was back in 2014. Now, the Christian owners of the bakery say they wouldn't make a cake iced with the slogan, "Support gay marriage."
The would-be customer, Gareth Lee, sued the company then for discrimination on the grounds of sexual orientation and political beliefs. Following many rulings and years of appeals, the European Court of Human Rights has now rejected the case, saying it is inadmissible.
Well, our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie, has been following all of this. I mean, and Doogie, it does leave quite a lot of questions as to why the Equality Commission decided to pursue this case and pay for this case so vigorously.
Yes, and I mean, it really has. It has gone away from the discrimination, and it really has gone to why people got involved in this case in the first place. You are correct. It was in 2014 when Gareth Lee walked into the Royal Avenue Asher's Bakery. He ordered a cake. He wanted it iced with a message supporting gay marriage. The bakery owners, who are Christians, didn't want to get involved in this, and as most retailers actually, they don't want involved in anything political. Retailers are there to serve everybody, so they gave him his money back, apologised, and on he went. Next thing they knew, the Equality Commission had got involved and had actually backed Mr Lee to take them to court. Now, this had dragged on since 2014, and it caused the family of the bakery financial and, of course, mental hardship. And I spoke to Simon Calvert from the Christian Association, who took their case for them and looked after them, and this is what he had to say.
I think, anyone can imagine what it's like to be on the receiving end of litigation, and that's a stressful thing. To be on the receiving end of litigation where you're accused of discriminating against someone, that's pretty horrible. And of course, initially in the county court and the Court of Appeal, the family lost. And the court said that they were discriminatory, and they knew they weren't. They knew they hadn't done anything wrong. And so it wasn't until they got to the UK Supreme Court that they were finally vindicated. I think that we were all disappointed that lawyers for the other side tried to resurrect it by taking the case to Strasbourg, but it was the right outcome. I mean, the ruling from Strasbourg, I mean, in the end, it wasn't even close. They've thrown out Mr Lee's case at the first hurdle. They've ruled it wasn't admissible. They've said it was doubtful whether his human rights were engaged at all, and in any event, he'd never made any of these arguments at any of the 3 previous stages of the case. So it was a pretty comprehensive, slap down for the appeal. But the family are just really very relieved that it's all over. So when the family first approached us, when the Equality Commission first intimated to them that they might sue them over this, we said that we would not only help them with the legal action and help them with the media and all of that, but that we would cover their legal costs. Christian Institute supporters donate generously to us to help exactly in cases like this. So by the time it was all done and dusted in the domestic courts, it had cost, between both sides, over £500,000. So we covered the Ashes costs, and the taxpayer, through the Equality Commission for Northern Ireland, covered Mr Lee's costs.
Well, you can hear the amazing eye-watering amounts of money there that were involved. £500,000, £250,000 of that came out of the taxpayer's pocket. So there's a number of reasons why this case, it was important for it to actually stand for Ashers. The main one, of course, is that it actually protects the minorities. It means that you cannot go into a shop now and ask a retailer to get something printed in a T-shirt that they don't agree with. It also means that retailers themselves are protected by other business laws, competition laws, why businesses don't want to do business with other businesses. It means that they can actually choose their clients, and that's the way it's always been. So Simon explains again what this all meant.
In our society, you have lots of people with lots of different views, and it's important, if we're going to get along together, that we allow one another to have those different views. And what's so shocking about this case was it was an attempt to force people to go against their most deeply held beliefs. And it's not difficult to imagine how, whatever kind of business you're involved with, sometimes you might get asked to do something that just goes against your most deeply held beliefs. If you are a Muslim and you run a printing company, why should somebody be able to force you to print cartoons of Muhammad? If you are a lesbian couple and you run your own bakery, why should someone be able to force you to do cakes saying that gay marriage is an abomination? That's just, I think most people instinctively know that's not the kind of society that they want to live in. And that's why it was so important that Ashes won their case. I think a lot of people have questions for the Equality Commission for Northern Ireland. Why, in the first instance, they decided to take sides on a very controversial issue and to bring a case against a Christian family over their views on an issue like same-sex marriage, when everybody knows, you might not like Christian views on it, but everybody knows that the mainstream Christian view is that marriage is between a man and a woman. And it's not a view that holds any animosity against anybody, it's just a belief about what marriage is. And so for the Equality Commission to come in on a controversial issue like that, I think a lot of people were very disappointed because, of course, the Commission is meant to defend everybody's rights, not just the rights of one community as against another. And I think a lot of questions are being asked now about the fact that they spent over £250,000 of taxpayers' money on this, and they've lost. So I think the Commission's got a long way to go to rebuild trust, really, with the community at large, that it really does care about everybody's rights, and that they've got good judgment about which cases to back and which ones not to back.
Well, you can see we have spoke to the Quality Commission, and all they done was sent us back an email explaining how they spent the money. They won't, or refused to come in front of a camera, said they couldn't give us an interview. But they are an arm's length body, which means that they are funded by the Executive Office that sits behind me here in Stormont. And I will be asking questions of them to appear in front of the camera to explain to the public why they seemed fit to spend £250,000 on a case that could have caused more problems had it have gone through than not. And I must say, the case now, all of this now, is not about gay rights or anything like it. It is just about where the public money has been spent in Northern Ireland. And I think all of us as journalists are finding it increasingly hard to get close to ministers, etc. when we start asking difficult questions. We have SPADs to get past, and then we sit and watch as our democracy is ruled by the courts, barristers and solicitors, and I think that's what we must really, really get to the bottom of.
OK, Doogie, thank you.
Thank you very much. Just shows you can't have your cake and ice it.
Oh.
No, sorry. No, sorry. Sorry about that. The Golden Globes are coming up, but there's going to be no schmutter, no celebs, no broadcast, yet we Brits are apparently going to do quite well in it. We'll find out what's going on in a few moments.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
It's 9:39, and whether you're listening on the radio or watching us on TV or streaming on YouTube or whatever it is, welcome to Breakfast on GB.
Yeah, it's lovely to be with you. Shall we talk showbiz now? Yes. I think so. Stephanie Tetchy is with us. Now, these Golden Globes are apparently going to be a bit of a damp squib because nothing's happening. Except I do read in the papers that we Brits are going to do quite well in them.
We're definitely going to do really well, and it's a shame we're not going to get our moment. We're going to have to wait either till the Oscars or the BAFTAs, because tonight is going to be a closed affair, and for once it's not down to COVID, but it's down to entertainment politics between the Hollywood Foreign Press Association having having a big fallout with celebrities and the industry. Last year, there was this whole big kerfuffle surrounding the awards because there was a lack of diversity. There's also been a big expose about Hollywood studios trying to bribe members, trying to get them to pick their films or their dramas. So this year, only on Thursday, they announced that it's going to be a stripped-back affair. It's going to be behind closed doors, no red carpets, no celebrities, and we're just like, what are we supposed to do, kind of thing. But I think, again, they found it quite difficult to try pull the celebrities in because a lot of them have refused.
Yes, they wouldn't want to be associated with something that's under such criticism.
No.
Didn't you say something earlier about Tom Cruise giving his back?
He returned all 3 of his Golden Globes back to them because he's been so upset with how they've been handling things, and I was quite surprised he did that because I thought most actors, once you've got your awards, you want to treasure them. But again, Hollywood is changing now. You know, I think people want to make sure it's fair for women, it's diverse, and people are not being bribed to pick, different films or dramas that don't need to be right.
We've always heard skullduggery has gone on.
Yeah.
They throw lavish parties, they give out incredible gifts, don't they, to try and get their movies watched and then favoured.
Well, now, in a bid to try stop that, the Hollywood Foreign Press Association, they've banned it. They've said studios cannot gift their members. So the reason why I think this year's been pulled off, as I should say, is because I think they want to get it right. They want to hopefully come back with a bang for their 80th.
I've always wondered why, in thank you speeches, some of these stars get up and thank the Foreign Press Association.
Yeah.
I've always thought, why do they mention them?
Yeah.
It's obviously a big organisation that organises the Golden Globes.
It is. They're the ones who are pulling the strings, and that's why I always like British awards, because I feel like there's a bit more transparency with us, like with the BAFTAs. It's a very well slick-oiled system, but Hollywood is right now changing, going through its changes, and I think hopefully by next year we'll have the Golden Globes back in action.
I'd never give anything back.
No.
I wouldn't give it back.
I'll put it on eBay.
Apparently, Kenneth Branagh's Belfast is in the lead. The bookies are putting a good thing on there, but also Steven Spielberg's new West Side Story, which is apparently brilliant.
Really good. Yeah. And The Power of the Dog, which stars Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah, so that's also up for an award. Olivia Colman as well is up for Best Actress.
For The Lost Daughter.
Yeah, so, I feel like they're not really going to get their due. But
Nothing for Spider-Man 3.
Although apparently that was very good.
Fantastic.
It is,
fantastic.
But I find that action movies never get awards.
They never do. They get
such a shame.
They get the box office.
Yeah, but they don't get the accolades.
Kate Winslet's crime drama Mayor of Easttown is up for
She
TV
done
Best Actress.
really well.
And that was
in
very, very good.
Yeah, so definitely.
Oh, it is. It's really good.
Very gripping.
She's very gritty.
Yeah.
Oh, gritty.
Far from Titanic, definitely.
She chooses occasionally. She chooses roles that aren't just glamorous.
Yeah, no.
It's really good.
Talking of Titanic and her co-star, I mean, it's all this in the papers. Leonardo DiCaprio looking very glamorous.
Yeah,
in his tighty whities.
His yacht looks glamorous,
but is he an eco-hypocrite?
Well, I think for now we can say he is, because Leo's one of the big players when it comes to promoting sustainability and being eco-friendly. But now this week we saw pictures of him on a yacht, which was not so eco-friendly, with his young girlfriend.
Do you know how much it costs to fill up the tank of that yacht?
How much?
In petrol. 250 grand. To fill it up.
Just for how many people? Maybe him and his missus.
And in 7 days, it costs as much carbon, it puts as much carbon into the atmosphere as a year in a car.
Well, that's the problem with these celebrities. It's hard to take them seriously when they go on about sustainability, because they get flown out left, right and centre on private jets all the time. It's not like it's a one-off occasion. Then they splash out on things like that, and then they'll come back to us and say, you should be more sustainability, you must be more sustainable, you must be more eco-friendly, and their lifestyles off behind the campaigns doesn't reflect that.
Yeah, one rule for them.
One rule for us.
To be fair, it's not his yacht, but he is on it.
Well, I'm sure he could have found a more sustainable way to relax.
Yes, get a rubber dinghy. Get out on Coniston Water on a rubber dinghy, Leo.
I suppose you feel as a star you get some privacy on a super yacht like that's got a helipad, but that doesn't explain why he's sunbathing for everybody to see.
Well, I know the paparazzi will always find Leo when he's on holiday, so next time hopefully he'll think about a bit better choice of what he'll do for his holidays.
Yeah, well, talking about people who do have a sort of real conscience, Tilda Swinton Swinton, who's a fantastic actress.
I love Tilda. I've interviewed her so many times, and she's like one of the most down-to-earth actresses. So I wasn't shocked when I read that she's thinking of quitting acting in the future and retraining in palliative care. I think, like most of us, the pandemic had her questioning about her life and what she does, and she says that, you know, watching her parents in palliative care had a big effect on her, and she spent most of the lockdowns in the Highlands where she lives, and she said she's surrounded by so many people who needed the help, so many people who haven't left their homes, and she feels like she could be a part of that change to help them.
Huge. I mean, the emotional stress and pressure on someone in palliative care. I mean,
Yeah.
You've got to be a very special person.
Oh,
to do
you
it.
do. My mother was a palliative care nurse, and you see the stress and the emotional stress, not just the physical stress, of how hard it is. So for her to say she wants to leave the glamorous Hollywood lifestyle behind to do this, it goes to show that she's quite caring and she's got a heart. But she said she can't do it now because she has to retrain for another 2 to 3 years. So I think we might see her in another few movies, but in the future, she might give it up for good.
Yeah, well, good for her, actually. I've got a lot of respect for her doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if she's seen it and witnessed the good that can be done, obviously it's moved her to that extent.
Definitely, and I think, you know, she's given so much to the film industry, and I think it's quite nice that she thinks that actually there could be life after the film industries, because most actors and actresses, once they want to give it up, they go into directing or they'll do like a production play or something. So this is quite interesting that she's a local at heart and she cares what's going on around her.
She was in Star Trek, wasn't she?
Was she?
Yeah, she was the Borg Queen.
Was she?
Oh.
Yeah.
I need to do a Google on that.
In one of the movies, she was either in the movie or the TV series. One or the other.
Oh, I didn't realise
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm going to check that. I said something wrong, but I'm pretty sure she's a Trekkie.
Oh, well, that's all. I like her even more. She's in the Marvel movies and all
Yeah,
that.
no, she's one of my favourites.
yeah.
Always a pleasure to interview.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you, guys.
That's corny, but true.
Thank you.
We'll catch you next weekend.
Thank you, guys.
OK, let's bring you up to date with some of the other stories. And the Education Secretary has become the first government minister to back reducing the isolation period from 7 to 5 days. Nadeem Zahawi says he will be led by the UK Health Security Agency on the matter, but he thinks it would be helpful for staff if it did decide to cut the isolation time down for those who test positive with COVID.
Australian authorities are finalising a legal defence explaining their decision to bar entry to Novak Djokovic over his COVID vaccination status. The world's top-ranked tennis player is spending a 4th day in an immigration detention centre ahead of a court case tomorrow. He landed in Melbourne this week to play in the Australian Open. Player Renata Vorakova from the Czech Republic has now left the country after having had her visa cancelled.
And it is a very happy birthday, hopefully, for the Duchess of Cambridge, who is 40 today. She's released 3 new portraits, which, frankly, are stunning. Fashion photographer Paolo Roversi took the birthday pictures of Kate in a series of Alexander McQueen dresses with flowing hair. This one is particularly stunning, I think. She's wearing 2 pairs of earrings that belong to Diana, Princess of Wales, and 1 pair in another picture that belong to Her Majesty the Queen.
Time for the front pages?
Oh, let's have a glance through.
Right, end mass jabs and treat COVID like we do the flu is the top line of The Observer today. The comments by the former chairman of the UK's vaccine task force called for a major rethink of the UK's COVID strategy and a return to what he calls a new normal.
Yeah, new normal. We're all going to have to get used to that, I think, aren't we? The Times says free lateral flow tests could face the axe under a strategy of living with COVID. Under proposals drawn up by government, the new system could mean free tests would only be provided to high-risk bodies like care homes, hospitals and schools.
Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has warned that she's going to trigger Article 16 of the Brexit agreement if the EU won't bend. And that leads the Telegraph this morning. The new Brexit negotiator has insisted that Britain will overhaul the rules surrounding Northern Ireland unilaterally if they cannot reach a negotiated solution.
For the Sunday Express, they've got an exclusive with the Home Secretary warning the House of Lords not to block her crime bill. She says it is time for tougher justice.
The Independent's top story says the oil industry were invited by the government to help write the new rules on drilling. And this only weeks after the Prime Minister entertained world leaders at COP26 in Glasgow.
Be a true Tory, Boris, or you're finished. Tough words from the former Brexit Minister Lord Frost in the Mail on Sunday. He says the Prime Minister must reset his government along more traditional Conservative lines if they stand any chance of winning the next general election.
Meanwhile, the Sunday People reports Savannah Brockhill, who was jailed for the murder of toddler Star Hobson, joked in jail that she has buried 3 more babies. And that, as they say on the front page there, is truly sick.
It's beyond belief, isn't it? On to something lighter in the Sunday Mirror. Danny Dyer has quit EastEnders and the BBC show is left in crisis as a result, apparently.
The Sun on Sunday says that England footballer Jack Grealish spent the night with a Towie star, isn't it, at a hideaway villa.
Can't have been that hideaway. Everyone's found out about it.
Yeah, front page.
The Daily Star Sunday. It's got the best story of the day, quite frankly. Yuri Geller. That's what a great mock-up they've done. Is going to cause a historical earthquake because he is going to find the sacred Ark of the Covenant, just like Indiana Jones did, and he's going to dig it up very soon. Hopefully not look into it.
No, you can't.
No,
you turn to sand, don't you?
His face
Something.
melted.
That's right.
In that very old but fabulous movie. So there you go.
Should we talk sport?
Oh, let's.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, Aidan's here. Morning, Aidan.
How you doing? Yuri Geller could have done a good job with England's cricketers the last few weeks, I would have thought.
Yes, he would get everybody's mind melded, wouldn't he?
Possibly, yeah. I'm not sure where the spoons come into it. But...
No, you never know. He could have maybe tweaked the bats a little bit to deliver better.
Possibly,
better
the
curves.
wickets. Yeah, but listen, England have forced a draw in the last hour and a half or so down in Australia in the fourth test. A bit of resilience. It had been a calamitous tour so far. 3-0 down. They come to Sydney. Morale was at a low ebb. You've got Chris Silverwood, the coach, saying a few days ago that there are some positives to be taken from the first 3 tests. I mean, presumably he's having a laugh. But the only positive was his COVID test because he's not actually with the team at the moment.
Oh.
So, but today they've shown some resilience, some good numbers. Zach Crawley getting 77, followed up by Ben Stokes on 60, Johnny Bairstow 41. Those 2 were actually injured while they were playing as well. They were carrying minor injuries. So a bit of resilience there. They've done well. Mark Wood out for LBW on 0. Which wasn't great, but so much to do in terms of. I mean, there's a day-night test to come in Hobart next, but there's so much picking through the wreckage of England's series. 3-0 down, but they've avoided the whitewash at the very least, and we hope for better times ahead. But there's lots of soul searching to be done because some of these players, quite frankly, are playing for their futures.
Yeah. Oh.
Gosh. Yeah.
Ooh, it does make it sound serious, actually, doesn't it?
It's only cricket,
serious.
but it's only sport, but it matters to a lot of people, and I think there are some people there. There is some radical surgery to be done on this squad. They've been in decline for about 10 years or so. Jimmy Anderson, prolific bowler over the years, 39 years old now. You've seen real gladiators like Alistair Cook leave the scene in the last 10 years or so. So plenty to do. There's talk of a new coach coming in as well.
Time for new blood as well coming in?
Yeah, new blood, definitely. I also think possibly Joe Root has been an outstanding batsman, probably one of the 2 or 3 best in the world. But is the burden of captaincy possibly weighing him down slightly? We all like our captain to lead by example. And in cricket, the captain is more important than, say, rugby or football, for example. They pick the team, literally. They have a far more important role to play. So possibly he's been overburdened by the responsibility of the captaincy. He's still a fantastic batsman. Maybe get him doing that alone and somebody else should come in as a captain. We'll have to see. But, yeah, it's lots of soul-searching and picking through the wreckage, as I say. But at least they've shown a bit of resilience today when the morale was at a very low ebb.
Yeah. I was in Cambridge on Thursday.
Yeah?
Went for a day out.
Right.
Didn't realise I was visiting the new mecca of football.
Football wasn't
But
mentioned
they weren't
at all,
there.
no?
It wasn't. No, they weren't there, no.
Wonderful win yesterday. Wonderful. They go to Newcastle, who are now confirmed as the richest club in the world. We touched on the scale of their wealth earlier on in the day, didn't we? I mean, it aggregates to more than the rest of the league put together, and there are several billionaires already operating in the Premier League and have been for a number of years now. So that's the scale we're talking about. Cambridge is not known for its football. You went recently. I went in the summer to watch Queen's Park Rangers play a friendly, and it hasn't changed in the last 30-odd years. I mean, they haven't had any meaningful success, any sustained success since Dion Dublin was there. For those who watch a bit of daytime television, as I do, they may know him as now more familiarly as the as the presenter of Homes Under the Hammer. But anyway, Cambridge go there yesterday against all the odds, really. Newcastle are at a very low situation in terms of their morale, but nonetheless an outstanding victory. League One side beating a Premier League side. A cynic might say, well, Newcastle, do they need to be in this competition? It's so crucial they preserve Premier League status.
What does it mean to Cambridge to have beaten them? I mean,
does
it mean more money for them? Or
without doubt. I mean, and these clubs are so dependent on gate receipts. It's not like they're in the Premier League or even the Championship and can rely to some degree, or in the Premier League, rely almost solely. You don't need fans anymore from a commercial point of view, almost. These clubs, you can get £110 million for finishing bottom of the Premier League. Gosh. So Cambridge are punching above their weight in League One. I would say they're a League Two club, really. They're doing
well. But they've probably got tons of loyal fans who followed them their whole life.
Absolutely.
And they must be really savouring this moment.
They took several thousand fans up to Newcastle yesterday, and I can assure you, by judging by the pictures on TV last night, they thoroughly enjoyed
ecstatic.
Their day.
Hey, look, Phil's been in touch this morning, Aidan, saying Aidan McGee really knows his stuff. Great morning breakfast news.
Right, you've just made that up, haven't you?
No, it's there.
Lovely.
Somebody loves you.
Yeah, good. It's about time.
Yeah, quite right, too.
Cheers,
Good to see you. Now, we, of course, will be back next weekend from 6 in the morning, but Isabel and Eamon are back tomorrow.
Yep, but still to come on GB News, it's the political correction. First of all, though, the weather. So bye from both of us for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Well, let's have a look at the weather for you. And the UK is looking dry across southeast England, but elsewhere a mix of sunshine and showers. So let's have the details for you. And thicker cloud and rain will move into West Cornwall by midday. Elsewhere, remaining bright with sunshine and showers. Not as windy as yesterday, with highs around 9. A dry, bright and fresh morning across southeast England. Light winds, but with plenty of winter sunshine. Chilly with highs of 7. The cloudiest skies across Wales this morning will be in the west, with some showers here. Elsewhere, brighter with sunny spells. Bit of a chilly start, but then a bright morning across much of the Midlands, with plenty of sunny spells, but perhaps just the odd shower. It's a chilly day again, highs of 6 Celsius. Now, moving on to northwest England, it's going to be cloudy and damp. Northeast England will be drier and brighter with sunny spells, perhaps a few light showers. Temperatures around 5 Celsius by lunchtime. A cold, frosty but sunny morning across northeast Scotland. Elsewhere, often cloudy with showers. Those showers falling as snow over the higher ground. Edinburgh largely cloudy with highs of 5. Fairly cloudy skies expected across Northern Ireland as well, with a scattering of showers. Some of those showers could be heavy at times. Top temperatures 7 Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. For the rest of Sunday, rain will edge into the far west. Elsewhere, a scattering of showers are possible. And that's how your weather's shaping up.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to